and the meeting is number 7 of 20 of the 2023 cycle. And so at this time, I'll call this meeting to order. First up, the invocation from Pastor Steve, First Baptist.
Lord, we just want to come before you tonight, pause and thank you for your goodness and your grace. And Lord, a special thank you to all of our people in the health facilities and things here that, Lord, are equipping us to get better soon and do all this work. And Lord, I want to pray for our first responders. They've got such a hard job during this particular time with people coming from everywhere. And Lord, I know it's hard on them, and I want to pray for them and, Lord, and their families and give them wisdom. Lord, I thank you for this council, Lord, that is serious about protecting the people in this county and looking for new ways to make things safer. Lord, I'm grateful for that and for all the time they put in. And Lord, most of all, we want to thank you for your goodness and grace to bless this nation beyond measure anywhere in the world. And we pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
All right, Councilwoman.
Please join me, put your hand over your
All right, thank you both. All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
With the motion and second, do I hear any discussions? Seeing none, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All righty, so we got 3 presentations today, and we will start with the Destin Youth Council. So I think I saw a few of you guys here, so you'd like to come up? Push the button, it'll make the light turn red, and the floor will be yours.
Ray, do you want to start? Do you want to do the summary?
If I may introduce Ms. Grace Fountain. She is the chair of the Destin Youth Council. The Youth Council would like to petition the Mid-Bay Bridge Authority for further reduction in rates. And they drafted a resolution, and Grace is here tonight to ask for your support of that resolution.
All right, thank you.
Like Ray said, there's an attachment to the agenda of our proposed resolution. We are asking for support from y'all as we try to move this along and get this approved. We have not reached out to Mid-Bay Bridge authorities yet, as we want you guys' support before we move on. We have gotten over 300 signatures for a petition from high school students around the area. Some of our city council members have, gone around in their schools, gotten signatures, and given it back to us. I don't know if there's copies of those on y'all's copies, but we have gotten over 300. That's pretty much it. Everything else is attached to y'all's resolution, the price, how it'd be distributed, which would be through the schools if we get the approval from Mid-Bay Bridge. But yeah, any questions?
Thank you so much. So at this time, do I hear a motion on the floor for discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve their request.
All right, do I hear a second? Second. All right, with the first and a second, I'll open up the floor for discussions. Councilman Bagley?
Yeah, have y'all talked with Representative Maney or his office?
No,
yet?
sir, we have not.
Okay, because he's got a local bill moving the Mid-Bay Bridge Authority out from underneath the county.
Okay.
You might also talk with him. And then you said you hadn't talked to any of the members of the Mid-Bay Bridge Authority?
No, sir, not yet. We were wanting you guys' support before we contacted them.
Okay. The other group I would ask you to talk with is either the Chamber or the Harbor.
Okay.
Folks in the Harbor, because I know several of them have mentioned to me about, was there a way to get a lower bridge price in the evening? So people could come over, go to restaurants, go to the harbor, to go whatever.
Okay.
That way you can build a little synergy and maybe have, it's not just y'all out there and with a city resolution, but it's a large group of people because they usually are more successful than smaller groups of people.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we can definitely work with them.
Councilman Guile?
I'm reading the resolution, and there's something that's a little vague to me, and I just want clarification. It says 20 trips per month for the high school students with SunPass. 20 trips is 10 days, right? Or are you talking 20 round trip?
No, sir, we're talking there is a trip and they're coming back as a trip.
So you're only talking for a discount for 10 days out of a month?
Yes,
there's
sir. Right now,
22 school days?
right now, the frequent users rate is, I think, 32 for a month. But we have students who are going over to Niceville 3 times a day, which is 6 trips. So we were trying to lower that number so that they could get more of a discount because they are having to go over there so many times.
Thank you for the clarification.
All right, with no other discussions on the board, I will call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. All right, so the reason I am up here is that next month is all about our water and the conservation and the saving of our water. So typically in Florida, May is our driest month, and in doing so, this is our 25th year of giving the proclamation for Water Conservation Month in the month of April. So whereas water is a basic and essential need for every living creature, and whereas Destin water users, they're here today, thank you guys, is the water provider for the city of Destin, and whereas the state of Florida Water Management District, the city of Destin, and the Destin water users are working together to increase awareness about importance of water conservation. And whereas the city of Destin, Destin water users, and the state of Florida have designated April, typically a dry month when the water demands are most acute, Florida's Water Conservation Month, to educate citizens about how they can help save Florida's precious water resources. And whereas Destin water users has always encouraged and supported water conservation through various educational programs and special events. And whereas the business industry, schools, and citizens can make a difference when it comes to conserving water and thus promoting a healthy economy and community. And whereas leak prevention is commonly thought to be the first step in conserving water, Destin water users will encourage citizens and businesses to focus on fixing those leaks. Now, therefore, it is resolved that by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Destin, I do hereby proclaim the month of April as Water Conservation Month. Destin water users and the city of Destin are both called upon each citizen and business to help protect our precious resources by practicing water-saving measures and becoming more aware of the need to save water. For this, the 25th year of Water Conservation Month, there will be a special focus on fixing leaks and all forms of water loss. So done this 20th day of March, 2023. And I just want to recognize Mr. Lockwood. Come on up here. Ornette Lockwood. Thank you so much for 25 years.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Do you want to say anything?
Sure. I would encourage everyone to come to our website, look at water-saving tips that we have there. Also encourage you to look at our Facebook page and to sign up on our website for the customer portal where you can track live what your water usage is. And that way you can tell when you have a leak. So please reach out to our customer service and they can help you sign up for that. And thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for supporting this.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. For you guys who don't know, Destin Water Users is a huge community supporter through the Destin Forward class. We've had actually a chance to go and tour the facility. It is immaculate from the engineering down to the small business feel. They really do a great job for us. They've secured several water lines, and our aquifers are some of the purest in Florida. So we are very grateful for your guys' stewardship in our waterway. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much.
Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I apologize. I forgot during the agenda approval, I meant to ask that we pull 3D into the city manager reports and 3G into public hearings.
All right, with a motion for 2 pulls of the consent agenda, do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote for the change.
Thank you.
All right, ayes have it, so moved. Lucky man. All right, so 1C is going to be Okaloosa Walton Homeless Community of Care. Sorry about that. Continuum of Care. Sorry about that. Yeah. And then just give me your first and last name and your address, please, and then
I'm
floor is
Crystal
yours.
Harrison. Our address is 151 Mary Esther Boulevard, Unit 509, and that's in Mary Esther, Florida, 32569. Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you all about what we do and who we are. I am Crystal Harrison, the new Executive Director for the Homelessness and Housing Alliance, and also known as HHA. We are the lead agency in the local continuum of care for Okaloosa and Walton counties. The COC, or Continuum of Care program, promotes a community-wide commitment to ending homelessness. We provide funding to our local nonprofit partners through state and local government funding to house individuals and families who are experiencing homelessness and to prevent low-income families that are struggling financially from becoming homeless. On January 26, 2023, we conducted our annual point-in-time count. The point-in-time count is an opportunity to count all of the individuals experiencing homelessness for 24 hours within Okaloosa and Walton counties. The point-in-time count is conducted nationwide by every COC to get an accurate count or snapshot of individuals and families experiencing homelessness. It is considered the best data source for assessing the homeless population and fairly accurately depicts our county's needs. You may ask why homelessness should matter to you, and I'll give you 4 reasons. It's a humanitarian issue. Homelessness is a complex and multifaceted issue that affects individuals, families, and communities alike. People and families of all racial and ethnic backgrounds are affected, and by addressing homelessness, you can help provide basic human needs such as food, shelter, and medical care to some of our most vulnerable communities in our community. Number 2, it's a public health issue. Homelessness can contribute to many health problems, including physical illnesses and mental and behavioral health disorders. Addressing the issue can help prevent the spread of infectious diseases, improve access to health care, and reduce health care costs. Number 3, it's an economic issue. Homelessness can have high economic costs for local governments, such as emergency health care services, law enforcement, and other public services. We can reduce these costs by addressing homelessness and redirecting resources to other areas such as education and infrastructure. Last but not least, it's a moral issue. Homelessness is often the result of systemic problems such as poverty, lack of affordable housing, and economic inequality. We can help address these underlying issues and create a more just and equitable society by addressing homelessness. The next question is, how can you help? Through partnership. Become a member of our continuum of care, attend our quarterly stakeholder meetings, or even join one of our standing committees. Our next meeting is scheduled for April 18th at 11 o'clock at Warriors Hall in Crestview. You can also help through advocacy. You can advocate for policies and programs that address homelessness at the local, state, and national levels. This includes supporting affordable housing initiatives, funding homeless services, and job training programs to help transition out of homelessness. Lastly, through education and awareness. You can educate your peers, business partners, and the general public about the causes and consequences of homelessness, and raise awareness about the issue. This includes sharing information about local homeless populations, dispelling myths and stereotypes about homelessness, and promoting empathy and compassion for those experiencing homelessness. Of course, the Homelessness and Housing Alliance couldn't do this, couldn't tackle ending homelessness alone, and we are very thankful to have a group of very dedicated and passionate partners supporting us. To learn more about who we are and what we do, you can visit our website at www.hhalliance.org, or you can ask to meet with me specifically and personally, and I can do that as well. On behalf of the Homelessness and Housing Alliance, the Okaloosa-Walton Homeless Continuum of Care, those who had families and individuals that have experienced homelessness in the past, those families that are currently experiencing homelessness, and unfortunately, those at risk of future homelessness, I would like to say thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I look forward to taking you up on that offer.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have one question. You suggested help with homeless services. What's an example of some of those services that we could help with?
Well, we have several different services. We work very closely with Catholic Charities, the Matrix. We have several shelters, One Hopeful Place and Opportunity Place. You can help through volunteering. You can help through advocacy. As I said, through coming to the stakeholder meetings, we have several different committees, such as our housing committee, where we're working on building relationships with landlords to increase. What can we do right now to increase those affordable housing options? So that's something that we're working on as well. There's a lot of ways that you can help. Like I said, one is just by attending the stakeholder meeting and giving input and listening to what we have to say.
And thanks for your presentation. Certainly, having been here for 70 years now, Destin's homeless problems are much greater than they ever were in the past. And we need to try to help. So I look forward to working with you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for anyone out there, I know I've gone and visited the St. Andrew's Church here locally on Mountain. They do a blue door ministry and a bike ministry, and that is one of the many avenues in Destin that we're trying to do to help support homeless and make sure they move. So on that note, Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, do we want to direct a staff member to attend at least this meeting in April to report back and see if we want to have a permanent presence on that? Or, I don't know what my calendar looks like, but since it is in Crestview and I am in Crestview every day, I might be able to attend for the staff, but I have to find my calendar before. But, yeah.
Well, if you're self-imposing, then,
No, for one meeting, yeah.
a fact finder meeting.
And then I will report back to y'all and the staff on the April 18th meeting. If you can just send me that information, I would appreciate it. I know it's April 18th at 11 a.m., but I didn't get where. Warrior.
Great, thank you guys so much. All right, at this point, it is the public comment, so I will start on my left. If anyone from the general public would like to speak, you have two opportunities today. One at the beginning, one at the end of this meeting. The light is already on, so you just need to come up here, say your first and last name, your address, and your 3 minutes will begin. Yes, and if you're here for anything of the public comment, specifically the doc, we will have our own public comments at that time, and we'll ask you to keep those comments at that time. Yep, thank you.
I guess it's on. Carrie Harbarger, 307 Mountain Drive. So I had noticed that our code compliance had been aggressive on writing some citations and such over feather flags here in Destin. So I kind of did my own little research, and the evening that I received a notice, a friend of mine received a citation, an actual monetary one. And I rode around, and I noticed that our code compliance probably drove by 8 flags to get to me. I could take that personal, but I really don't. But I really wanted to ask the council while we do some of the comp plans, I'm just curious, why are they so offensive? I really traveled around a lot of the communities, 30A, a lot of them, and they're not offensive to any other communities but us. So I wanted to address that, and also, too, a lot of the sign ordinances, I didn't really understand the tickets myself, because the sign ordinance, if you go right around and look, the sign ordinances are not. They're being readdressed now, but I just don't understand why the actual feather flags are offensive. And that was just pretty much, well, like I said, that day I kind of documentally drove by like 8 of them just to drive through City Hall, all on city property. And those very flags still remain. I think that we could probably come together, and if the council thinks it's appropriate, I don't know why we couldn't do something in compliance and make it nice. But everybody uses them, and I don't find them offensive. I think that, if we, they're not faded and blowing, and I don't know how y'all feel about them. I just drove through a lot of communities that are just as nice as Destin, Florida, and I love my Destin, Florida, but we're not holier than thou, so I was just curious why it's offensive, and could we have the discussion? So, thank you. Any questions for me?
All right, thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, anyone else? Seeing not anyone from the middle here? Nope. All right, so at this time, I will close the public comments and entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda 3A, B, C, E, F, H, I, J, K.
Second.
All right, and I will call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. All right, so we want to go from top down on that, Councilman Bagby? As far as C is the first one pulled?
Well,
Or
we
D?
can on 3D.
D.
Yeah, the question was asking me, and I didn't really have a good answer. This started out, I guess, in 2019, before we had parking stickers for residents. And so prior to having parking stickers for residents, I kind of understand the rationale, but now that we do have parking stickers for full-time residents, why would we waive the parking fees for everybody during that? It was also pointed out to me that we don't waive the parking fees during the fishing rodeo or during any of the other festivals. And so, while I agree, and I think it's very important for the blessing of the fleet and the whole week of blessings, I'm just wondering, this is one of these things, well, we're doing it because we've always done it, and so we'll just keep on doing it, but it doesn't make sense to keep on doing it if you've got 2 parking stickers per permanent resident. So that's why I'm bringing it up, to see if there's really a rationale to keep doing this. Thank you.
Great, okay. Anything from the city side?
Mr. Bagby covered it correctly. I believe it was 2019 we started doing this, and as he pointed out, every household that has a full-time resident is eligible for 2 stickers.
Any discussion?
I think then that kind of makes sense that we pull this off and let public parking be paid for that weekend. And anyone that's a resident paying taxes in Destin, please go to City Hall and get your stickers.
Okay, so do I hear a motion on the table, or
I think we need a motion.
just direction? No? All right, so we'll just not waive it.
I would simply point out that this is an affair that is supported heavily by all the churches in Destin. And if you guys want to learn a good political lesson, I think we're about to. It's, that's the reason they were exempted. And it is, do we want to charge, now that it's $20, do we really want to charge all the members of the churches in Destin who are not all Destin residents $20 to attend what's basically a religious ceremony? Personally, I would leave it exempt.
I'd like to,
Hey, good, that was you.
I just kind of echo what Mr. Destin said. It might be my favorite tradition in this town, and I think that there's a lot of people, deckhands, captains, people who rely on this industry to make a living. This is I think it goes a whole lot deeper than just a parade on a spiritual level. I get a lot out of it every year, and I know my friends and family do as well. So I would support what Mr. Destin is saying, and I'd like to waive the fees for that day as well.
Right. All right, so I got a motion and a second. Any further discussions on the matter?
I just, thank you for clarifying that. I understand it, and like Johnny said, I hadn't realized it was a lot more than just our locals that, really lean into this event, so I'll support that.
Councilman Bagby, anything else?
Yeah, I probably won't support it, just not because I don't support the deckhands, but a lot of them were Destin residents also. Not all of them, I understand that. And they can park at the churches, or they can park, at where their captains have parking for them already, not the public parking lot. So I would just say, it's not that I'm opposed to this event. I actually support this event. But if we're going to do it for this event, I can think of 10 other events that we ought to be doing this for too. So I just think out of a sense of fairness, and I understand church members vote. I'm a church member. I vote. But I think we ought to be fair to everybody.
Councilman King?
Yeah, and I think I'm not singling out those employees of charter boats and private boats, and I'm not singling them out. I mean to say, like, their friends and their families, that's one day where a lot of them come out where they wouldn't normally come out. I think the fishing rodeo is a different thing because it's 30 days long, 31 days long, and, you can go have a big time at AJ's and do that whole deal. I think this being a single day or single afternoon, that's what seems different to me. And I know that there's friends of mine whose family come in town just for this. So that's where my mind was going with it, not just the workers. So,
Councilman Destin?
Just one question. Do we waive the fee during the seafood festival for vendors that park?
Lisa, I believe you're online. Is Lisa online?
We did.
Yes,
I believe we have
Yes, we
waived them in
do.
the past. Yes.
So the answer is yes.
did you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Did we waive it before or after the Seafood Festival last year? Because the information I got was a lot of the vendors got tickets.
They did, but it was
Thank
waived
you.
ahead of time, correct, Lisa?
That is correct, and the, whoever the parking person was for the seafood festival, that was a lapse in them giving those people, I guess, their parking pass to park in our parking spots.
All right. Seeing no other discussions, I will call the vote.
Well, hold on, I need clarification on what we're voting on, because we seem to jump around a lot up here.
All right, jump up.
So, clarification on what we're actually voting for.
I think the motion is to waive the fees.
All right. Ayes have it, so moved. All right. Next pulled item? Public hearing, okay. All right, so with that, I will, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First off, for the viewing audience, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Webb Warren. I'm the Deputy City Manager, who is temporarily filling in for Lance, who is our city manager and on vacation with his family for spring break. So we look forward to his return next week. First, under the city manager reports tonight, we have the fiscal year 2022 annual audit and financial statements. An annual audit of the city's financial operations is required to maintain legal reporting compliance for various state and federal agencies and to comply with certain bond covenants within the city's debt instruments. We have with us Mr. Wade Stansberry, a CPA, who's the partner in the Malden and Jenkins firm, and he will be presenting an independent auditor's report. And also we have Ms. Crystal Strickland here to answer any questions. Mr.
All
Stansberry?
right.
Thank you.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council. Thanks so much for allowing me to be here with you all tonight, even if it is virtually. And thanks as well for allowing Malden and Jenkins to serve your great city. This is our very first year serving you all, and we're very, very proud to do so. We got a brief presentation for you all. Can y'all see that as well?
Yes.
Okay, great. I want to go through it pretty quickly. If you have any questions, feel free to just jump right on in. Just a little bit of background information about Malden and Jenkins. We are a firm, large regional firm here in the Southeast. We're over 100 years old. We currently provide over professional services to over 700 governmental entities here in the Southeast. And one thing just to point out too, that we do offer free CPE to our clients. So we certainly hope that Crystal and her staff, as well as anyone here on the board, can participate in that in the future. Here's just a dashboard on some additional highlights of who we are. Again, won't really touch on any of that. The report that the city prepares is called a annual comprehensive financial report. This is an ACFR. We used to call it a comprehensive annual financial report, a CAFR. Just want to make sure that we don't utilize that terminology anymore. That was something that was changed by the GASB just a few years ago. But this is a report that goes above and beyond what is required by the state. And so the city should be commended for actually preparing an act for each and every year. Regarding the audit opinion, just as a reminder, the statements are the responsibility and the representation of city management. Our responsibility was to perform an audit and then to express an opinion. We've expressed an unmodified opinion. This is a clean opinion. This is the type of opinion that you all wish to receive each and every year. Additionally, within the report are two other reports. The first is a compliance report. We call this the Yellow Book report. This is a report that basically goes over all of our tests of the city's internal controls, compliance with laws, regulations, what have you. We did not have any kind of financial statement findings or internal control findings. We did have one compliance finding. This is regarding investment compliance with state statutes. Basically, in a nutshell, because the city has investments, you will have a city investment policy. The state requires the person in charge of that policy and implementation oversight of the investments to receive certain CPE training, if you will, each and every year. And basically, due to some staffing shortages, Crystal was unable to attend a class that was previously scheduled. So hate to actually have to report that one, but that one is a compliance issue that we did report. Additionally, the city received and spent just over $750,000 of federal awards and about $1.7 million of state financial assistance. This required us to actually have a state and a federal single audit. And this covered about $1.7 million of the total expenditures. Again, this is an additional audit, which is very rigorous to go through, a lot of testing surrounding the procurement, surrounding all of the compliance requirements. We noted no issues regarding to the use of those funds as well. Here we have a lot of required communications. I certainly won't go over all of these with you. Just the one thing I will point out, the very last one, auditor independence. We are absolutely independent with regards to the city of Destin. We take our independence very, very seriously, and that's one thing I just wanted to point out here. Then we have just some general information, some statistical information. The city had a great year overall. The city's net position increased about 8.3 million citywide. So very good, strong overall performance. The city ended up spending about $1,400 per resident for the year. The general fund balance ended the year with about $28.1 million in total fund balance. That's a 6.72% increase over the prior year. You all have only about $1,500 in total debt per resident, which is a very good low number, and it's gradually decreasing. Then you've got some other information on your employees and average salaries and whatnot. Then we've just got some information on the general fund's overall revenues. The largest piece of this pie is taxes, as I would expect to see. One thing I would point out is you see the kind of orange colored there, which is a negative of a little over $1 million. That actually happens to be mostly from investment losses during the year. And I want to make sure that you all understand that is mostly unrealized losses. Essentially, the city has purchased a lot of U.S. treasuries and notes and T-bills and whatnot. And because of the rising interest rate environment that we saw during 2022, the value of those bonds actually decreased. But so long as the city holds those to maturity, you're going to continue to receive the interest income off of those. And gradually, the value of those bonds will come back up to the overall purchase price. So certainly nothing to worry about, but I did want to point that out because that's that's a little unusual to see in our governmental financial statements. Then we've got another pie chart showing your general fund expenditures. Certainly a lot of general government as well as public safety expenditures, kind of showing that overall breakout. Then we've got a 5-year general fund fund balance history. Again, you can see a slight increase over that of 2021. And your total unassigned general fund balance represents about 346 days of operating expenditures, which is, again, a very good, healthy fund balance for the general fund as of the end of the year. Then just wanted to point out that we do offer, we will issue an additional report that we call our AD&A, our Auditor's Discussion and Analysis, where we summarize a lot of our required communications as well as any findings that we would have, recommendations for improvements, as well as a listing of all of your upcoming GASB statements and standards and pronouncements. None of which I think are going to significantly affect the city going forward, other than maybe the Sabitas that it's coming up maybe next year. But that is something else that we provide to you all. Then when it comes to just the statements, I do want to say that at the very beginning of the act for itself is the MD&A, the Management's Discussion and Analysis. And so the statements themselves are a pretty long, complex document. If you don't look at anything else, I do recommend that you read the MD&A. This is written by Crystal and her staff, and it gives a lot of good information and that helps the reader understand why things went up or down as compared to the prior year. So again, all in all, a very, very good year. I think that Crystal and her staff do a very, very good job. They certainly did a great job in helping us through this first year of audit with the city. They provided all of the information that we needed timely to get the audit completed. We really enjoyed working with her and her staff, and certainly look forward to working with the city in the future. Do you all have any questions for me?
Teresa?
I move to accept the 2022 annual audit and financial statements for the City of Destin and for the City of Destin Community Redevelopment Agency.
All right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, with a second. First up for discussion will be Councilman Bagby.
Thank you, and thank you for the report. Crystal, you have anything you want to say before?
Just in case you were wondering, the one item that I had to clear up was to get my 8 hours of investment continued professional education, and I am scheduled for that in April.
Awesome.
Okay. Some of the assumptions on the actuarial, I noticed, and I know we're lagging a year, but a 2.5% inflation rate. So that's not a Crystal question. I guess that's a you question.
Actually, the actuarial rates came from Foster & Foster. They're one of the primary actuaries in the state of Florida that oversee other post-employment benefit plans throughout the state of Florida. And the range was 2% up to 7%. So they had a whole range. But you're correct. There is a lag. And they did have that as their primary. And then they show mid and above and below.
But the period that they used it was through September 30th, 2022, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So who made the decision that we should use the 2.5% inflation rate at September 30th, 2022?
Foster & Foster. But if you look through more closely at the report, like I said, they show the range is up to 7%.
Okay, why did we use their inflation rate, I guess, if they provided a range, why did we choose on the lower end of the range?
It's not our choice. We don't choose.
Who chooses?
Foster & Foster chooses, the actuarial company that does this for all of the municipalities.
Oh, okay. So with the League of Cities or with?
This is.
Yeah, because this is not this is our audit. This isn't Foster & Foster's audit.
Also, I just want to also point out, this is on one small report, is for other post-employment benefits. The City of Destin We only supply what is required by the state of Florida. We don't supply any more. So this is for people who've retired from the city. We are required to allow them to purchase through a COBRA payment. We're required to allow them to be part of our health insurance. But currently, we have 84 eligible people, but I don't remember the exact number. I think it's 1 or 2 that are actively participating. So it's really a low impact on the financial statements. Wade, do you have anything more to add to this?
Yeah, I would just point out too that the actuarial report is as of September 30th of 2021.
Right.
And then it's rolled forward to
Updated to
2022
September
for that update for the
2022,
statements.
Yeah.
And of course, when this was prepared by Foster & Foster, certainly at that point in time, they did not know that we were going to be in such a hyperinflationary environment. And certainly I would expect to see that number potentially change as of the valuation that's going to be done as of 2021 or 2022 or 2023. So that 2.5%, while today with hindsight may seem very, very low, that is a very commonly utilized number, and it certainly was utilized very easily in 2021.
Yeah, I'm looking at the summary of their reports on page 82 of the financial statements, and they had 4.77 on their schedule. And they have the last 5 years going back.
Well, that's what they had as the discount rate as of September 2021. Rolled forward to September 30th, 2022, was 4.77.
Yeah, I think we're looking at different reports.
Yeah, I'm looking, page 49, the OPEB liability. And I don't want to get too far in the weeds. I'll get with you and Lance to get in the weeds on this. But some of the figures in here just give me pause. I'll just put it like that. But that's not what an audit does. I think you did a great job on the audit. I just maybe don't agree with all the underlying assumptions that have been used for some of these calculations. But as far as the process of, are we paying the bills? Are you doing a good job? Yes, you're doing a great job. The city staff is doing a great job. It's just the nature of the audit reports that sometimes these numbers are questionable.
Councilman Destin?
Thank you, Mayor, and I want to congratulate Crystal and her group on the audit. I usually cut to the management letter, and the rest of it, you go and look at if there's something wrong in the management letter, because that's where it shows up, and the management letter is very clean, one of the more clean ones that I've seen. I've seen some pretty awful ones. I have one question, though, on page 91, where it says non-compliance material to financial statements noted in the yeses checked, unmodified. What is that referring to?
On page 91, let me get there.
Everything else is no, which is where we want it. That one says yes, and I was just curious, what does that mean? It says unmodified and it's checked yes.
Well, so you've got the non-compliance material to the statements. That's the one that we've already touched on.
So that's the same one, you think? Yeah,
I'm sorry?
That's what I wanted to know, if that was the same one we discussed earlier.
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay, then I don't have any other question. That one is easily fixed.
All right,
Thanks.
seeing no other discussions, I'll call the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. Congratulations, Crystal.
Great job, Crystal. Thank you. Next up on the agenda, we have a discussion on code amendment for code compliance lien reduction request. Back on January 3rd, 2023, the City Council did direct that proposed code compliance lien reduction code provisions be brought before the City Council for consideration before the end of March. Therefore, the following policy is being brought back. So we have our Community Development Director, Mr. Louis Nguzzi, and Land Use Attorney, Ms. Kimberly Kopp, to go into further details on this policy discussion.
Okay, I think we discussed it with most of you already, so we'll probably just go straight to questions. But just for the purposes of the public, I'll say the policy sets forth various criteria to be considered by the city council when they are considering whether to reduce a lien, and those are listed in the staff report. And then we also included a chart based on the length of the lien. So the reduction amount maximum would be greater for shorter liens and much lower for liens that have been around a while, and we're trying to incentivize people to pay the liens earlier. Once they get to 15 years, it's proposed to have no reductions at all. But I'll let you look at that unless you want me to read through it, and just ask me any questions, or Lewis or Webb.
All right, so do you want to just open this up for discussion before we call a motion? Anyone have discussion on this? Yeah. All right, go for it.
We discussed some of my concerns. The amounts, whatever the council determines they want to do with the amounts, I'll support. I'm probably closer to Tory not waiving any amounts, but that's just me. But I did have a few questions. Number 6, whether the applicant acquired the subject property with knowledge of the subject lien. If we're going to establish a policy, I'd like that to be stricken, and the reason is that shouldn't be, if they had no knowledge of a subject lien, that issue is between them and the title company, and they should sue the title company. That should not be something that we get in the middle of or look at or whatever. And then number 9, with respect to a speculator, non-homestead purchaser of the subject property, the accrued amount of the code compliance fine, I would at least remove the word speculator. I think you can either say we're all speculators or none of us are speculators, because you buy a house and you may not homestead it initially, like when we first moved here, but then we bought another house and homesteaded it. But we weren't going to be here forever. We just ended up being here forever. And sometimes situations change. And so speculator just has a pejorative sense there. And I would remove that from number 9 if we're going to actually put in, and I know this will come back to us in an actual policy, but I want to kind of give you some parameters or some things I would expect to see when you bring the policy back. And then several of them have to do with mitigating the, any demonstrated financial hardship, any other mitigating circumstance that may, okay, I'm trying to think what besides the financial hardship would be a mitigating circumstance. I mean, if you got divorced, yep, that's a financial hardship. It's another circumstance, but it's a financial hardship. Every one of these, it should be based on financial hardship in my mind. And that's just, and those are the 3 that really jumped out at me. Number 6 in particular, that first part of number 9, and then that one. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Guile.
Thank you. And I just want to make sure, because we're not all lawyers and we're not all versed very well. But when you use the term speculator, you mean a person who invests in stocks, property, or other ventures in the hope of making a profit. Was that the intent of the term speculator?
It is intended as an investor that's not homesteading the property, but it's not necessary. We'll take out that word and leave it as non-homestead. I had talked to Councilmember Bagby about that earlier, and there's no reason not to take out that word. It's fine.
All right. Any other suggestions, parameters? Go for it.
How about take out the whole number?
I don't agree with that.
So
Well,
just
if
take
you
it out.
did take it out, you'd still have, there's kind of a catch-all unless you remove number 15, because 15 would basically allow for other criteria, and so would 14, other mitigating circumstances, although Councilmember Bagby just discussed potentially taking that one out. And when we talk about other mitigating circumstances, that is kind of a catch-all. We can remove it if you want to keep it to financial only, but that was intended to address situations such as, if someone dies, that could have a financial consequence or not, but let's say somebody owns the property and is sick for a while and a code compliance issue accrues, maybe or maybe not. I don't know if there's a financial issue, probably, but not certainly. So we included something like that. It's not necessary if the council wants to keep it to financial.
All right. Any other discussions? Seeing none, we believe do we have a?
I guess I'll,
Yeah, just
I'll
read the
make the
recommended.
following motion. I move to direct the city land use attorney to prepare an ordinance establishing code compliance lien reduction with the following changes. Removal of,
I have removal of 6, 9, and possibly 14.
yes. That would be my motion. And then we
Do you
can
want
work-
14 out?
I don't personally.
No.
Okay, 6 and 9 out, and you can leave 14. I mean, to me, it's redundant, but okay.
All right, got a motion on the table. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, with that, we'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
So just for clarification, none of the percentages in the chart are changing? Okay, just making sure.
All right, Webb, back to you.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda is the acquisition of property for the Crosstown Connector. The Beach Drive to Benning Drive Road project is the last unconnected leg of the Crosstown Connector, which is, of course, an east-west corridor to relieve traffic congestion on Highway 98. There are properties located within that project area that will require purchase by the city, both complete and partial acquisitions. These are two of those properties, and we have Jeff Kozat, our projects manager, ready to answer any questions on this item.
Right, Jeff, do you have anything up front?
No, I'm good.
All right, Councilwoman Aber.
I move that the city council approve purchase of 700 Legion Drive and authorize city manager to execute the purchase agreement and proceed with closing at 609 Sandalwood Drive. I move that the city, just one, and then vote.
All right, so I have the motion of the first property. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, with that discussion, Councilman Destin?
The money is in the budget for this?
Yes, sir. It's the money from FDOT.
Is it from FDOT?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
All right, seeing no other discussion, call the vote. All right, the vote is unanimous, so moved.
I move that the city council approve the purchase of 609 Sandalwood Drive and authorize city manager to execute the purchase agreement and proceed with closing.
Right, got a
Second.
motion, got a second. See no further discussions, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved.
Next, we have the issuance of certificate of occupancy for Captain Royal Melvin Heritage Park. The city is a subrecipient through Okaloosa County of a Restore Act grant, which funds the development of that park on the harbor. Staff is proposing a plan to open the park by Memorial Day 2023. Ms. Kim Kopp, Lewis, Lance, Kyle, and Jeff, as well as other folks, including Mr. Buckingham and Scott Jenkins, have been working on this project to see it to fruition. At this time, I'd like to hand this over to Ms. Kopp for further details on what is being proposed tonight for council's consideration.
Thank you, Webb. Okay, so we are basically asking you to direct the city manager to provide the county and U.S. Treasury with formal notice of the city's desire to complete the punch list work at a cost to be borne by the city, to authorize the city manager and legal to take the steps necessary in order to complete the punch list work in an amount up to $50,000, and to authorize an internal budget transfer of $50,000 from the Buck Destin restroom project to complete the Captain Royal Melvin Park, and to obtain a CO for the park prior to Memorial Day 2023. In this agenda item is a report from Architects LLC that go over the punch list items. We also have cost estimates for the two main corrections that need to occur. That includes waterproofing of the roof over the bathrooms, and also there's a concrete slab at the base of the stairs that is situated in such a way that water is going backwards into the storage room instead of draining appropriately. And so the cost of those two main repairs is around $30,000, as you'll see, and then we've given ourselves a little leeway to fix the remaining punch list items for an amount of about $50,000. We do have the engineer on the project and the project manager here, as well as the city engineer, if you have questions.
All right, so I have a couple. So Councilman Guile?
My question is a little bit less on this exact topic, but it still involves the park. I've been having several meetings with Lance about concern with stormwater. And Lance obviously is in here. Has he made you abreast of those concerns, Webb, or do you have any answers on where we are with that evaluation?
I'm not aware of that. Michael, are you aware of any of that?
Okay. All right, well then.
Councilman Destin?
I am supportive of the motion, however, I'm not supportive of where we are going to take the money from. The repairs of that bathroom was a pretty good priority with the recreational committee or the committee that recommended it. And instead, have we made a motion yet? No. Well, I'll make a motion that we proceed to finish it ourselves, but the money come from reserves, contingencies, whatever we call that now, our general fund reserves, because I don't think we should sacrifice one park for another.
With that,
I agree and second that.
all right, with motion and second, have any further discussions? Councilman Bagby?
How much is currently in the contingency? Because I thought that was going to the undergrounding, but maybe we didn't.
We didn't do that yet.
Yeah,
I'm looking it up right now.
okay. I got time.
I think there's more than 50,000.
I thought there was
So,
like 50.
council contingency has $45,000.
Okay, you gotta talk into the thing closer. I can't hear you. I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing.
Council contingency has $45,000 in it.
Okay, and I wasn't referring to council contingencies. I was referring to our reserve. What do we call that now?
Oh, the fund balance?
Yes.
Okay, that would require a budget amendment because that increases our total budget. So I can bring back a budget amendment to the next meeting for $50,000.
We could do a budget amendment, couldn't we?
Yes,
Have it
we
ready at
can.
the next meeting?
You could move it from, you could take contingency tonight and then do budget amendment for the next one. That way we don't
That
slow
sounds
down.
like the route to go.
Yeah, I
So
would
I'll
take the
modify
45,000. Yeah.
I'll modify that we do it in that manner.
All right. All right, with that, for the sake of everyone, Ray, can you read off where we're at? Yeah, I know.
Can you repeat that, sir?
Right, you want me to try to repeat it? Okay, so this is my understanding, and I'm just going to change the amount from 50 to 45 because that's how much we have. Okay, so the motion, as I understand it, would be that the council moves to direct the city manager to provide the county and U.S. Treasury formal notice of the city's desire to complete the punch list work at a cost to be borne by the city, to authorize the city manager and legal to take the steps necessary in order to complete the punch list work in an amount up to $50,000, to authorize an internal budget transfer of $45,000 from the council contingency to complete the Captain Royal Melvin Park, and to obtain a CO for the park prior to Memorial Day 2023.
Okay.
I don't think you can authorize 50 with a $45,000.
I'm sorry, I'm reading it. It's 45,000
okay.
without. Thank you for correcting me.
You got that now, Ray, the 45 and 45?
45 all around.
And then just for a question,
That would be another motion though, right?
Next week.
I was thinking you would do another motion for the budget amendment at the following meeting.
all right,
We can bring back the budget amendment at the next meeting. You'll vote on it. It'll go from reserves back to council contingency. Y'all be filled up another $45,000.
But we can
making
vote
sure we
on
get our
this,
city center.
but we can vote on this now and proceed immediately so we can be open by Memorial Day with Mr. Buckingham taking charge, right?
Correct.
Seeing no further discussion, call the vote. How about it? Ayes have it, so moved.
All right. Next up on the agenda is our sub-award agreement extension. This is a follow-up to the previous item. This is a housekeeping item to extend the sub-award agreement to June 15th, 2023. This is required of our Restore Act grant for the project. Kyle, our city attorney, can provide additional details on this item for your consideration.
Thanks, Webb. So this item, it just kind of coincidentally coming at the same time as the other item. This item is intended, the money's flowing down from the U.S. Treasury to the Okaloosa County and then to the city. In order for that reimbursement to flow down, we need to be in a current sub-award agreement with the county, and then the county is an award agreement with U.S. Treasury for this and other projects. So the county has not been reimbursed at all yet. They've reimbursed, I don't know where their reimbursement is at to the city. Crystal could probably tell you. But in order for that money to continue flowing like we want it to, the sub-award agreement is necessary. There might, once we institute this other plan, hopefully we'll deduct the other work from GLC's contract, pay them out, and then we'll all move on. We'll finish the work. Everyone will be happy. It will be a slightly less award amount because the city will make up the difference there.
Okay, I have Councilwoman Aber.
I move we authorize mayor to execute Amendment 4 to the subaward agreement number 2020-R14.
All right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Second. All right, discussion, Councilman Bagley.
I apologize, but this is on the previous motion. Did we request the budget amendment in the amount of 50,000 to come back to the next meeting, or just 45? Because I'm gonna, after we do this, make a separate motion to make it 50, since that's what the original request was, just in case we have to come back for the 5,000. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep track of my little numbers up here, okay? Y'all are making it difficult some days.
All right, seeing no other discussions on this motion, I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. And would you like the floor?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to direct staff to bring back a budget amendment for $50,000 from, damn, the word just escaped me.
Fund
The
balance.
unfunded, the fund balance to council contingency in the amount of $50,000, if I didn't already say that,
Second.
at the next meeting.
All right, the second, no discussion, call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Good housekeeping. All right, Webb.
All right, last underneath the city manager's report, a few announcements. Want to announce in February, the HR highlights includes 5 new hires, 1 internal promotion, and 0 resignations or terminations. A planner position in community development that was vacant for 157 days has also just been filled. Also, our public information officer has met with Patrick Maddox, our county emergency manager, and toured the EOC and undergone 4 levels of FEMA certification for crisis preparation. So thank you, Tamara. Great work on that.
Well done, Tamara.
And then also want to thank council members Bagby and Abear for attending last Friday's library anniversary celebration. The library also has an Easter treat trail event scheduled for April 5th at 10 a.m. for toddlers and preschoolers. And also our city's annual Easter egg hunt for youth ages 12 and under will be on April 8th at the Morgan Sports Center beginning at 9 a.m. The Dewey Buck Destin Park will also be hosting a community yard sale on March 25th from 8 a.m. till noon. Anyone interested in selling their belongings can sign up for a fee of $15 for Destin residents and $20 for non-Destin residents. If you want any more information for that, please contact the community center. Our strategic partners with the Okaloosa Coastal Resource Team deployed and sunk the 191-foot vessel offshore. That's about 16 miles offshore. This public artificial reef will be very beneficial for our fishing and diving industries in Destin. That's another huge win. We're excited about that with our strategic partners.
Alex was in charge of that, right?
That is correct.
Thank you, Alex Fogg, if you're out there listening.
He has the best job ever, I think. And then last of all, as you may have heard, there have been some media attention on a sargassum plume in the Atlantic. We are monitoring the sargassum and have all parties involved, not only with permits, but with public information dissemination as necessary. We're working closely with the county. As you are probably aware, algae and seagrasses are naturally occurring in the marine environment worldwide. Fish, sea turtles, and small marine animals thrive in it. Small amounts are expected, as with every year, but if, as is being talked about in the media, if it becomes a significant problem, we have a plan for swift action. So we'll continue to monitor that and provide updates as necessary.
Awesome.
Great.
And that's right back to Alex Fogg. He's been very proactive. We have the permits ready, so if it does come, we're ready to just handle it right on the spot. Councilman Guile, you have anything?
I do have a question. We went through the employee roll call. Do we have an IT director lined up?
No, we do not. We have some additional interviews coming up this week.
So Webb, are you filling in as that position?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
All right, thank you so much. All right, so seeing no other discussions on that, thank you, Webb. And up next is public hearings. Kyle, if you want to take it away.
Sure. First up, we've got 5A. This is the second reading of ordinance number 2303CC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, regulating city cemeteries, providing for authority, providing for modifying city code, section 721, definitions, section 723, burial plots and mausoleum niches, and section 728, tombstones, monuments, and markers, providing for incorporation into the code of ordinances, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
Seeing that this is a public hearing, if there's anyone from the public who wants to speak on this topic at this time, this is your time to do so. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and look for a motion at this time.
Mayor, I move for approval of ordinance 2303CC on second reading.
I have a first, do I hear a second? All right, with Guile with a second. Good for you. I'll call the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Thank you for bringing that up. That was a good one. All right, and then we have a second public hearing. I didn't do well with the minutes here. All right, so Kyle, you want to take that away?
I'll introduce this item, and we're going to treat this like a traditional quasi-judicial hearing, like we normally would under the public hearing section. So this is William F. Davis Construction, on behalf of Seaside Properties, submitting an application for single-family residential marine construction proposed at 523 Noriega Road. And again, since we're going to treat this like a quasi-judicial hearing, let's go down and see if there's been any ex parte communications. I am aware, just all of you have received some emails on this. The applicant has received that email as well, so they are aware and they can respond appropriately. Ray, I see you have a question.
I should have asked this earlier. Can we do that without it being advertised as such?
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
I believe that the city staff properly advertised for a single, the normal procedures were followed for a residential dock construction, correct, Lewis? Yeah, Lewis is indicating yes. So yes, we can proceed. And so then I'll start with Johnny. Have you had any other ex parte communications other than the one I just disclosed?
No communication.
None other than those emails.
None other than the email.
None other than the emails.
None.
A resident stopped me on the break out here and voiced their opinion, but nothing other than that in the emails.
And let me just see if I can get a head nod here, and we'll let the record reflect. Despite these ex parte communications, do you feel like you can provide a fair and balanced judgment tonight? Yes. All right, let the record reflect. The council feels they can be fair and balanced here tonight. I'm going to go down to, let me swear everyone in who wants to speak on this item. Applicant, any member of your team that wants to stand, raise your right hand, and I'll swear you in. Any member of city staff who might testify, any member of the public who plans on testifying, stand, raise your right hand. If you could stand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you are about to provide is the truth? Okay, thank you guys. And with that, I'm going to send it down to Kim.
We'll go ahead and turn it over to the applicant. I believe you are here to make a presentation.
So just push the button for the red light to turn on, your name and address.
Okay, I got it figured out. My name's Travis Morrock. I'm the attorney for Seaside Destin Properties LLC. Standing here next to me is Mr. Robert Champagne. He's a principal of the entity. My firm's address, if you guys need that, 151 West Main Street, Suite 200, Pensacola, Florida, 32502. As you're probably familiar, Seaside Properties acquired the property located at 523 Noriego Road approximately 2 years ago. Since acquiring the property, they've engaged in the lengthy process of reconstructing a single-family residential dock that was originally permitted in the 1990s. As you can imagine, the dock was dilapidated and was in need of repair. To engage them in the process of reconstructing the dock, they engaged William F. Davis Construction, who are also present here today at the hearing, to assist them in the process. As we're here today, all the required documents, information, and all the conditions precedent have been satisfied. In particular, the project's consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. Specifically, it enhances the quality of life. There's no anticipated effect on the budget, and there's no anticipated effect on the level of service. It also meets all the requirements to comply with all city codes and regulations. In particular, it meets the requirements of the Land Development Code 11.05.01A, 11.05.01B, 11.05.01F, 11.05.01G, 11.0501M, 11.0501N, and 11.0501S. In sum, there's no legal basis to deny this project. All the requirements have been satisfied. All the materials have been timely submitted for review. I understand that there has been an objection from an adjoining property owner on the basis that it has a negative impact on the view from his property. To be clear, that's not a basis to deny this project. And moreover, an adjoining property owner's impact on his view is not superior to a property owner's use and enjoyment of their own property. Specifically, they've complied with all the requirements that are set forth in the Land Development Code. It's objective criteria. They've all been satisfied. It's required to go ahead and approve this project. It's not a subjective criteria, it's an objective criteria. From a practical and community perspective, it obviously makes sense that establishing the Land Development Code is objective criteria. Other landowners, that they're certain that if they comply with the exact same Land Development Code that Seaside Destin Properties have complied with today, that they also know that they'll be able to come before you and be able to obtain an approval of their project. They're not going to be fearful that somebody else is going to come along and say, you know, this negatively impacts my view, and therefore those rules shouldn't apply. You should listen to me and how it impacts my view. Likewise, it was a dilapidated dock. We want to have citizens to go ahead and improve their properties. That increases property values across the board, improves neighborhoods. So strictly from a legal basis and both from a practical and a community perspective, I request that this council approve the project as submitted.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman?
I have about 2 or 3 questions.
Sure.
The first of which is, when this was first applied for, was it applied for board replacement of this dock?
Yes, so yes, it was applied for and is reconstructed exactly in the exact same pilings, exactly where they were previously.
Okay. Second question is, what about the party deck that's being built as the above the pier that was not part of it for the last 20-something, 30 years that's being added on? Is that wasn't part of the original pier, correct?
From the 1990s?
Correct.
And I can bring up, if I can bring up somebody from Frank
Yes,
Davis
please.
Construction, they might be able to speak to more of the specifics on that.
And then, sir, before you begin, just your name and address.
Scott Shackley, 1000 Mac Bayou Center is a beach. The original plan that we submitted to the city of Destin showed that we were taking a 52-foot wide double barrel roof style and converting it to a flat deck. Under a rebuild permit, you know, there's a lot of papers floating around saying that this is new construction, this is not a board for board. It is an exact footprint replication. The flat deck, you can see in some of the older pictures, we are shrinking it from the double barrel roof style to a flat deck. It's not a party deck, it's just the observation deck. You know, you can call it whatever you want. The original permit with the city of Destin showed the stairs, showed the handrail around the entire flat deck structure. And the city of Destin initially approved it and only had an issue once the neighbors started to complain that it's going to interfere with their view. So it was initially permitted and approved from the city of Destin with that platform deck.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah.
Show you this photo.
Do you want to offer these pictures into evidence? Is that true?
That one might, we don't need, no, we don't need all three.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, that one's.
So my other question is, what was the square footage of what your original approval was from the city, and what is the now current square
exact
footage?
same.
It's not gone up to 4,000 something from the 3,000?
The footprint, so the pictures that you guys have.
Has the exact same footprint.
The pictures you guys have with this is the original footprint. That picture there is the exact same as it is now.
Pile for pile.
All the piles are in the exact same spot.
And the upper deck is being added on top of
At
the...
that same height right there, where you can see the flat beams, that is indicative of a flat style roof that was either built there after the barrel roof was in, or they had planned on it and just never put it back in. So this footprint is exactly what is there today. The only altercation was a typo. So my original drawing that I submitted showed it being the 54 feet. When the office manager scaled it for the original permit, that just typed it wrong. But my original drawing, this is what was approved by the city of, and this is all in your file. This is not new anything.
Yeah.
That's the stairs, the handrail, everything was approved by the city of Destin with those measurements.
Okay. And my question now is for staff. Has there been any alterations or any corrections to what this plan was? Have we gone out there to make sure it has not grown to be bigger than what was approved initially?
I think the building official is going to provide some clarification to some of the comments as far as the city approvals.
Right, in their initial submittal, which was in June of '22, it said the repair and replacements of existing dock and boathouse. The plan that was submitted was just a simple drawing. It didn't have the stairs on it, it didn't have the deck, it just had the footprint, if you will, of the existing slip that was there. They kind of screenshot it, if you will, aerial shot, put the measurements on there that it was, then also provided a picture of the old barrel roof that the deck once had. And then with the permit didn't even get issued till November timeframe. Not that it was due to staff, but because it was approved in 7-something, but they didn't pay the fees. It was invoiced July, I had a date here, July 15th, or July 1st, and, but they didn't pay the fees until November the 10th, so it was then issued on November 11th. Then it started construction, so Mr. Mealy continued contacting the city staff, stating it was, not being constructed per the board for board, if you will. Staff, myself, I went out there, eventually got up with the contractor, said, hey, what kind of roof are you putting on here, because it's not clear? Are you just putting a roof, or are you putting a deck? And it was brought to our attention that, yes, they were adding a deck. And at that time, that's when we issued a stop order to say, hey, the original dock didn't have a deck, it had a roof. And if it's changed to a deck that could be occupiable, then we need to take a step back and resubmit Harbor Waterways Board, because it is different than the original. So although it's still in the same footprint overall, the deck is only going over one slip, not both slips, where the roof was over both slopes, and that's the major change.
So, but that major change fit your description and your approval, and they were permitted to be allowed to continue, correct?
They weren't allowed to continue, only just to put the roof on. They have not, and that's where it stands today, they have not put a deck on top as far as a habitable deck and stairs. Those have not been constructed yet. Because at that time, we said halt for Harbor and Waterways approval and council approval before continuing.
Okay, so just to paraphrase that, correct me if I'm wrong, okay? So the board-for-board permit was submitted in June of 2022, okay? When it was issued in November and construction started, that's when the complaint came in, not that the view was obstructed necessarily, but that the work was not being done in accordance with the permit. So the building official went out there to verify if the work was being done in accordance with the permit, and it was not, so a stop work order was issued. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's that, and then what happened next was, if it's not a board-for-board permit, any residential dock permit goes through a different process. It then has to go to the harbor board instead of just being issued by staff. So that is why they then went to the harbor board. So this is a residential dock that was not a board-for-board permit because there were changes made.
What was the vote at the harbor board?
So the city attorney was at the harbor board meeting, so maybe he's best to answer that, but as the staff report details, it was deadlocked and a tie, 3-3 vote.
I saw that, I wanted that on public record.
Yes.
Okay, anything else? All right, Councilman Guile.
So it was a deadlock tie. Were the minutes provided to the council to review on what the harbor board determined? For us to review their minutes?
They're not posted on your portal yet.
Okay. This observation deck, it was originally intended to be a roof. Now you're intending it to be a deck with foot traffic and personnel. So it's altered from the original design intent of that.
Well, if you guys can bring up the Compass portal, our first application shows that it had stairs, a flat deck, and 400 and some, whatever the square footage of.
Okay, even if your first application has that, that's not the question I'm asking. I'm asking your intent on this
Was always
structure
to build a flat deck.
is to change the structure, original structure intent, and add a flat deck instead of a roof.
Correct.
Okay.
But, and that was based off of the Florida DEP approving it as a rebuild with a flat roof. We got that
Okay, but
straight
there's
from
a
DEP.
difference between a flat roof and a roof that requires foot traffic.
Not in the eyes of the state of Florida Department of Environmental Protection.
Okay, well, I'm talking about as an engineer in design work.
Okay.
There's live load, dead load.
Which we
Once you have foot
incorporate into every
traffic,
flat
there's
roof we build.
changing. So it's a definite intention change, okay, by definition. Also, as a roofing contractor, I can tell you, you can't put the same material on a roof that you can put on a deck that has foot traffic. So,
We're building a roof with a deck on top of it. It's all engineered to meet specs.
Yeah, it's
I see
2 by
what you're
12 doors.
saying, but it's not what the original intent of that deck was, correct? You're altering it to now incorporate foot traffic and a live load.
Councilman, are you referring to what the original, what consisted of the original dock? Did the original dock have?
The original dock, correct.
The original dock 30 years ago did not have a deck. That is correct.
Okay.
It had a very large roof.
Actually, that roof.
That was more obstructive than
That roof was
anything.
there before the city of Destin was a city. It was before the 84,
Okay.
Anything else?
and it
All right.
had been reconstructed since then.
All right, Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. So the deck met city code. It was approved by staff.
Yes, I mean, at this time, the permit has not gone forward with approval, but it does meet all aspects of code.
Okay, and the flat part of where you're going to have the deck, that is considerably lower than the peak of the barrel roofs?
Considerably, yes, sir. Probably, I can't scale the pitch from a 30-year-old picture, but I'd say at least 8 feet lower. And it's half the width. So the original barrel roof went over the entire 54 feet wide. It was 2 barrels, which is the picture he was trying to enter. It was 2 barrels, 52 feet wide by the entire thing, 72 by 52 or whatever the numbers, 54, 50, whatever the numbers are, had 2 barrels covering it. So I would assume that we shrunk it to just cover one. So there's an open slip and then just the flat section. And that is based off of the picture I was showing you that just has the beams on that side and the beams towards the front. The pitch on it, I don't know. It's a Quonset hut, so I would assume 8 feet higher.
Yeah, that's a good guess.
It's less than half the size it was.
Yeah.
when we put it back.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Bagby?
I always get fascinated by the money part. How much is this thing gonna cost? How much what's the charge? No,
I don't have that in front of me.
you
I
should.
don't know. Why
Yeah,
should
I mean, well, if I were doing the work, I would know what I would be charging
We
for
do
the
know,
work.
I mean, I didn't know I was gonna come to tell you what they're paying us to build it. I
Okay.
know what our permit value was I think
I'm not worried
70,000.
about the permit value. What's the billing so far?
The billing?
Yeah, so far, and you haven't even built the roof, so how much have you charged so far?
I don't really.
60,000 right now.
Okay, and we're
Yeah.
not even got the deck that can hold people up and,
No, it's-
no, guys, please, don't,
No,
don't,
please.
don't.
I mean, the deck is already up there. That
deck's
could hold
already
people
up
up. The plywood is sitting there that goes on top of it.
The material's already there.
Okay. And on the Quonset hut, 8 feet, so if somebody's 6 foot tall, all you're really doing is cutting 1.5 feet, 2 feet off of what's on top of that boat lift, right? Just say yes.
Big-
Yes,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, and cutting it in less than half.
All right, I don't see any further discussion at this time. King?
Well, this item was on the consent agenda. Seems like to me, I'm trying to figure out how, if what we have here is approved by the building department, I would like to get more of a feel on how we could tell these folks no to building this. I mean, it meets all the codes, it meets the land development code, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Can I say one other thing?
I think part of the concern is the harbor.
Just like the one 2 doors down that we already got permitted and built.
It's
2
a little-
doors to
it's
the
actually a little
west.
smaller.
Identical to it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
smaller than
smaller.
the 2 neighbors. Both neighbors complaining, it's smaller, it's half of their size.
All right, I don't see any further discussion for you guys, so I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You will have a chance after public comment to come back and speak again.
Okay, so that was displayed. So at this point, I'm going to give public comment on this agenda, so, yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Chuck Mully. I'm the neighbor on the west side.
Address, please. Address?
Oh, I'm so sorry. My name is Charles. I go by Chuck. Last name is Mully, M-U-L-L-E, and I live at 521 Noriega. I'm the west side of the empty lot that's been empty for about 25 years. At any rate, some things I want to point out. They requested and got and received a building permit for a board-for-board replacement. The board-for-board replacement had certain conditions that in 1105, it makes it real clear, they had to have the neighbors not consent, but they needed to notify us. We were not notified at all. If you wanted a covered boathouse in excess of 1,000 feet, you needed a submerged land lease. If you wanted a dock, a covered boathouse required a submerged land lease. If you wanted a boat dock in excess of 1,000 square feet, well, it required a submerged land lease as well. They were issued a permit. They built, it's a marvelously built structure. There's no question about it, an expensive structure. But at the end of the day, the DEP guidelines in 1105, it doesn't have anything to do with them. They removed the entire structure where it was there before, and they rebuilt it. It's all brand-new construction. It is larger. It is not in the same footprint. It has a little different angle on it. Just to do the math for a minute, it's about 54 feet wide by 74 feet deep. That math is a little under 4,000 square feet. The agenda item today here says 2,900 square feet. So if you add a elevated 20-foot high party deck on top of that, you got another 1,500 square feet, and you're really talking about 5,500 square feet, not 2,900 square feet. That's you're being told about here. We're not really objectionable to the dock. Come on, it's the boating community, and everybody needs and wants a dock and whatnot. We are objectionable to the elevated party deck. There's no home on the lot. There's no lavatory facilities or anything. And party decks are meant to party on. And so they're going to be using the shrubs, and that gets a little old after a while. The other thing about it that's important too is I did speak to the people at DEP, and there's no question about it. DEP said categorically that they will require a submerged land lease. We were in front of the harbor board. My neighbor and I were in front of the harbor board just about 2 weeks ago. You don't have the minutes of that meeting, and we don't understand why. But the harbor board was deadlocked on approval or non-approval, but they were not deadlocked over the issue that it is all brand-new construction. It is not a board for board. It doesn't resemble it in any way, shape, or form, and they were not deadlocked on that at all. Can I get my water? If DEP, everybody wants your approval. 1105 says that they had to have Corps of Engineer and DEP approval before they were issued a city building permit. So I can't connect those dots. I don't understand it, but it's happened. It's 80% complete already. I put a photograph in what I mailed and asked the nice gentleman over there to circulate if he would. I don't know whether circulating stuff now is appropriate or not. But anyway, long story short, it's there now. It's 80% complete. To give them a building, it's within 18 feet of the riparian line on both sides. I misspoke earlier. I thought it was a little less on my neighbor's side. It's right about 18 on mine. And, or was supposed to be, it could be less than now because it's a little bit bigger than it was before and I hadn't measured it. But long story short, I think DEP's requirement for a submerged land lease is consent of the neighbor. Years ago, when I
can't
bought a little bigger
wrap
boat.
it up. Sorry, you can't get it. Yeah, 3 minutes, and I was letting you summarize
Okay, I'll
up.
finish up, wrap it right now. We had to get the consent of the neighbor. I believe the DEP still requires consent of the neighbor. So if you guys approve what they want to do, which is contrary to everything that they've submitted, it's going to be even more of a logjam.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Mayor, point of order, I'm not sure the time applies during public hearings.
Can for public comment. If they had party status, it would not, but it can for comment. It's up to the discretion of the mayor and council.
Well, I would say it's probably inappropriate to restrict the testimony of these folks when we didn't restrict the other. And that's strictly your call.
No, and I prefer to lean on the side of letting everyone speak. I just, talking to Kyle earlier, they were part of the party, so they don't really fall under the time requirement.
That's right. There's no time limit for the applicant or any party, but there is for just general members of the public, and they did not seek party status. So.
All right. All right. Name and address.
My name is Larry Edwards. I live in Jackson, Mississippi, 4011 Crane Boulevard. We have owned 525 Noriega for 35 years. It is just a beach house for us. We don't rent. It is just for our family. You've heard that they have rebuilt exactly what was there. I call your attention to a picture that is part of the application. The distance for that interior slip is about 13 feet. What is there today on the plan is 22, 20, something like that. I can't get over there and measure exactly. The barrel roofs that have been referred to were not 54 feet wide. If you look at the aerials that are available, they were maybe 21 and 21. I have got pictures that show the aerial in 19 in 2013, and again in 2015 when it was totally rebuilt, no top, but it was rebuilt in 2015. I've got pictures available. There are 30 houses on the harbor, on Holiday Isle, Lagoon, Noriega. If you add to that those on Sandpiper Cove, it's close to 40. There are only 5 lots that have a deck above the water. This will be the largest. I can't confirm how tall it is because I can't get over there and measure it. My belief is if they're allowed to complete it with the railings, it will be significantly higher than the barrel roofs that were there. I think they will need to have a submerged land lease from FDEP. There were 2 emails that went back and forth wherein a question was asked of FDEP. Got a client that is just rebuilding where a dock had been. Do they need anything? Cursory response from FDEP said, it appears that they will not need it. Then there was a second set of emails that indicated that because it was a board-for-board replacement, that they would not be required. When you now know that it is not a board-for-board replacement, it is completely new construction, it is my opinion that they will be required to have a submerged land lease. I do not think under FDEP's rules that a submerged land lease can be obtained without consent of the adjacent property owners, being at least 25 feet away from the line, and has been testified here, they are within less than 18. I'm asking that, how we got here, I don't know, but I do not think the city was errant in anything they did. I think they were responding and shown some information. I think FDEP responded to a general question. Oh, if that's it, well, maybe you probably won't have to do that. But I think in the facts today, it is necessary for them to have a submerged land lease from FDEP. A submerged land lease is going to require the consent of both parties if it's within 25 feet. I do not see that it fits within any of the exceptions that are outlined in FDEP's requirements. So I'm asking that you would deny until they come back with the submerged land leases, and that what has been done so far, acknowledge it is not a board for board. It is totally different.
All right. Okay, yep, no more. Yep. Yeah, we'll give you an extra 2 there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can
All right.
I ask a question? Do we have a copy of this second email that says it required a board for board? The submerged land lease is not required for board? The second email you spoke about.
Sorry, sir.
The second email you spoke about that you said that exists with the submerged land lease, is there a copy of that email that says it only applies, it's not required if it's board for board?
Kyle?
Yeah. It is an email that was not in the original package before the Harbor Board, but was referred to by Steve O'Connor in the hearing. I think I do. It'll take me a moment to find it.
All right.
All right, any other public comments? Yes, sir. Name and address.
There it is. Will Ellison, 744 Kelly Street. Is this really what we're giving them a hard time about? If they have it 2 houses down, y'all are really gonna, I mean, it meets code, meets all the standard, qualifications that it needs. I don't understand the big deal about this from a guy that says it's a summer house, doesn't even live here. It blocks his view. Are we really going into blocking our neighbors' views is the reason we're gonna deny them? Just food for thought. Have a good day.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to make sure the public understands that's not what we're doing here.
That's okay. Yeah, it's public comment. Anyone else from the public? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public comments. You guys want to step back up, and then I think I have some discussion here. Oh, do you have something?
Yeah, come on.
All right. All right. This is your time. Yep.
Press the button.
Just-
the gray one, it'll make it red. There you go.
Yep, your name and address.
Okay, I'm Pam Edwards, or Mrs. Larry Edwards. Also live in Jackson and at 525 Noriega. Is that sufficient?
Yep, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Floor
Well,
is yours.
y'all kept referring to it as just a summer house. We spend a lot of time at that house. And no, we do not live there full-time, but we have owned that house for however long he said. I've practically raised my children there. They've grown up skiing in the harbor, on and on. I'm saying this house means more to us than, it's just not a summer house. We've never rented it out. We've always had it full of family and friends and for a very long time. And that's what was just making me a little irritated back there, was to say, it's not just a summer house. It's a house that really means something to us. And one other little comment, I heard it come up one time, but what they've put, and I know nothing about construction and underwater whatevers, but I do know that they're still supposed to build a railing up. I know, but you couldn't put people on this deck without having a railing around it, and I think they got stopped construction before they started that railing, but that railing is even going to go up further. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And then push the button, ma'am. Can you just touch that button one more time?
I'm sorry, I don't know about all this stuff.
The gray button? Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to see if the building official could respond on
Please.
the DEP commentary, because I believe that staff did get some correspondence from DEP.
Thank you, Kim. Staff reached out to her name is Miss Adrienne with DEP, Adrienne Childers. She is a compliance and assistant program environmental specialist. And we reached out to her. We gave her a synopsis of actions. We gave her all the details that the proposed dock is actually approximately 1 foot wider than the original approval, because the original approval stated it was 52, and it is now 53, so it's, give or take an extra 6 inches on each side. And that the proposed dock was now going to be a covered deck on one slip, and the other slip was going to remain open, and those were the identifiable changes from its existing construction, if you will. And we gave her all the information. We gave her a copy of the submittal that was submitted to Harbor and Waterways Board and everything. And they replied back that, she replied back, based on the email from DEP regards to the repair, replace, and the amount of time this dock has been in existence, the department is not going to pursue enforcement related to the complaint received. Thank you for your information provided, and that is all they said. And so they are not requiring any kind of submerged land lease, because it is, for them, the footprint remains the same, basically, within construction tolerances.
And so when you got that, they knew that the deck was going to be added?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted that to be clear for the record.
Thank you. Yeah, no. I'm sorry. Councilman Bagley?
Okay, so I guess that answers my submerged land lease question. I'm a little confused. They had a permit. They had a permit to do a board-by-board replacement. That permit's no longer valid. Is that correct?
It was issued a stop work on, and the permit has been placed on hold due to the fact that the board-for-board replacement, the difference was it was going to just have a roof versus a deck.
So, this is part of my confusion. We have a process for a board-by-board replacement. Staff approves it, boom. Yep, it's a board-by-board, so the permit they have has only been approved by the staff. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, but now we find out it's not a board-by-board replacement. Therefore, that permit shouldn't even be valid because the staff can't approve because we have another process for what they're trying to get approved. Correct?
Correct. The permit has been placed on hold. We can update any existing permit versus having to apply for a new permit, because we can, with the new system, we can upload new documents to it and reflect the, a difference in description of work. So that's instead of resubmitting everything.
So they were told, the applicant was told, it's not a board-by-board, therefore you have to go through this new process.
Correct.
And here's what the new process is, and it involves going before the Harbor Waterways Board, and then it's got to be approved by the city council, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and did they change any of their submissions from the original submission for the original board-by-board replacement to this new process?
Yes, because they supplied a plan showing the deck and the stairs.
Okay.
That was not submitted in the original permit application.
Okay, and did they change the cost from the original permit to the new permit? Because it's not the same just throwing a tin roof on top as opposed to building a deck that will support foot traffic. I'm just trying to figure out what this process is because I'm a little confused, but y'all are going to help me get straight. Did they change the price?
They did not reflect to us in changing the price, no.
Okay.
Original price that came in was, I think,
$60,000, yeah.
$69,000.
I read the file, okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to stop right there.
Councilwoman Neighbor?
Can I ask the lawyer and them a question? Okay, so, yeah, you can come on up here. So let me just clarify, this is a dock with a deck being built for an empty lot for people to party and use their boats and go back out in the harbor with no house there?
Currently, the lot is vacant. The dock is being built so they can go ahead and store their boat at the property.
All right, that was my only question.
Yeah. Councilman Guile?
Yeah, can Mr. Champagne, Mrs. Champagne make public comment?
Yeah, questions.
Their presentation.
But is this are you part of the applicant? Are they part
We
of?
are the applicant.
You are the applicant, and they can speak, they can speak.
I'm Robert Champagne. We have a resident that we stay during the summer here in Destin, 950 Highway 98 in Destin. As y'all know, getting to a boat in the water is kind of hard. There's no place to put a trailer. So I bought 2 vessels that I'm going to be putting there, and I stay in my condo, and then I go launch the boat with my family. I'm a veteran, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. I'm a legal guardian to an 8-year-old foster child that I raised, that we spent all summer here. I'm not a partier. All right, I don't know where these people were at. I don't even know these people. I was trying to be a friendly neighbor, and they became unfriendly because I'm blocking the view that I paid for from them. They have a view. They want a better view. Tear up their dock. Their dock is twice mine. I just want a dock to put my boat in. All right, I'm buying 2 vessels with Florida Registry to put money in Florida. I own 4 pieces of property in Destin that I pay property tax on. I want to retire and stay
We
here.
love it here.
All right, so I don't want no trouble. All I want is my boat dock.
And I asked for the dock
to be put up because y'all offer these wonderful, beautiful fireworks that we enjoy bringing our kids and our grandkids to watch. And we thought, oh, how nice, we could watch it from here. It's not a party dock. It was meant for me to watch with my grandkids. That's it.
Councilman Guile?
All right. I just want to be clear to everybody here. To me, this isn't an issue of a view. I mean, that does, whether it's blocking a view or not blocking a view, that's, to me, not my concern. What this is basically setting a precedent so that we understand that we're following the exact letter of the law and the advisory committees that we've put faith in the Harbor Board. And the things that are confusing me are the Harbor Board was deadlocked. But I'd like to know why, because I'm hearing conflicting information here. And I'd like to know what subjects they were deadlocked on and what subjects they were not deadlocked on. I do have concerns about if it was an original board-to-board, and that was something I was going to bring up that Mr. Bagby beat me to, but I know as a contractor, if I'm building something and I have to make an adjustment, that price goes up, that permit fee should go up, there should be another permit that's filed, the city permit increases based off cost increase. That should be done if the first permit was changed. So my concerns are more of what was the Harbor Board deadlocked on? What was, if there's somebody here that was attended it, please.
My recollection of the Harbor and Waterways Board, the motion that expressed a recommendation of denial was primarily concerned with the neighbor's riparian rights, similar to that provision that the council denied that dock at the last meeting on. That's my recollection. It was almost a month ago, but.
Okay, and I have another question for you then, because I apologize. I had to step out of that council meeting early and I missed that. So we've already denied a dock last session based off those rights.
Their last council meeting, the council voted to deny a dock application based on failure to meet criteria. I can't remember the specific provision. Jim, you might, because you made the motion, but it was in the marina siding provision and related to riparian rights of neighbors.
And do we know if the harbor dock had any issues with the deck itself or whether it was a board-to-board replacement?
I mean, I remember a lot of the same territory being covered at the Harbor and Waterways Board meeting. My recollection is that their specific issue was the impact on the riparian rights of the neighbors. I don't remember the board for board being a specific criteria that was called for in the motion to deny.
Thank you very much for that. And I just want to be extremely clear. It's not my concern whether somebody's view is obstructed or not obstructed. That's not my concern at this point. But whatever we do here, I mean, it sets a precedence for so many things we're combating right now in this community. We have 13,000 residents that are trying to account for 100,000 people's worth of usage every single day during the summer months. So there's a burden put on this city that when we make decisions like this, it impacts the city as a whole and all the residents as a whole. And that's why I'm asking these questions.
Thank you. Councilman King?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, I would echo the same thing. I think that these guys have been doing marine construction around here for as long as I've been around. I didn't take them as the kind of guys that would bend the rules or go around the procedures, so that's, yeah, around the permitting. I don't think that they've done that intentionally, if they've done that at all. But I would say at the same time, we need to set a precedent for what we're going to do in this town. But I'm the same way. I'm sure my neighbors are irritated with me about certain things. That's not my concern. We're here to do a job to enforce the land development code. I think that's what we need to do.
Right. Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, one other thing I'm confused on for the you can sit down. I don't have any,
You don't have any questions for me?
for
Okay.
the applicant. All my questions are always for the staff usually. What is the FDP, because your view being obstructed is not as long as it falls within our code, that it falls within our code, but what are the DEP setback requirements that would trigger a submerged land lease review?
I'm not really sure. I'm not sure of DEP's requirements for that. I do know that they stated like I said, they were given all the information that essentially in their view of it, the dock is in the same footprint that it was before, so it's not increased in size, and so therefore they do not need to have a new submerged land lease based on that.
Okay, so what I would like is a copy of what we sent to DEP and what DEP sent back to us to make sure. I don't remember seeing that. Was that in the thing that Ray handed us tonight? Because if you handed it to me tonight, I haven't gotten to it yet. I spend Sundays.
Yeah, there was an email
Saturdays.
from Steve O'Connor to Misty Adrian Childers, I believe.
And then,
This email should have been in the packet that was given by Ray.
okay. From Steve O'Connor?
That's correct.
Correct.
Okay.
To Adriana Childers.
Okay, I see Steve and Christopher Willis, from Steve to Christopher Willis.
It was dated, let me check here.
I've seen that, but that's not the one from, I see, okay.
There's a
Based
couple,
upon the email from FDOP regards, okay, so there's Steve O'Connor.
February 9th. Response on February 20th.
Based upon the email, I don't see.
I think you were just reading, based on the email from FDP in regards to repair replace, was that where you were at?
Okay, I can see her one line. Okay, I haven't read his email. So, and I'll just tell you where I am. I will not vote to approve it tonight. And we can either table it or we can deny it until two reasons. Number one, I haven't read what FDEP said and what we asked FDEP, and I'm sure Steve hit every single point that has ever been made, but until I read it, I'm not willing to vote to support it. And number two, the permit fee, no offense, I think needs to be relooked. Go ahead.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure. Knock yourself out.
Well, when it was brought to the applicant's attention that the deck was not on the original submittal, he then stated, well, then that piece of information was missing because that was always the part of the original application as well. It wasn't there, so he stated that it was supposed to be, and so the price does not change from his original submittal.
Okay, well, here's just Jim Bagby's position. I know the lawyers will be happy with me, not. Okay, number one, I'm not, if it impacts your view, it impacts your view if it's allowed. So I'm probably not going to make y'all happy. I'm definitely not going to make you happy because I'm not going to vote to approve that because that's not a $60,000 dock, folks. No offense, but it's not. And I will not vote to approve it tonight. And if the rest of the council wants to, that's fine. If they want to table it until we can review the cost of that facility and what other questions that Steve posed to FDEP, that's fine. But that's where I am tonight.
All right, thank you. Councilman Destin.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just try to set a few parameters here. City Attorney, this considered a quasi-judicial
Typically, residential docks, we don't conduct as quasi-judicial at this setting, but given the interest in this one, we're providing that additional due process to both the applicant and members of the public, yes.
So the answer to that is yes, this is a quasi-judicial.
In my lawyer way, that was a yes.
Okay. Now when we have quasi-judicial hearing, we are supposed to base our decision on expert testimony. Is that basically correct?
Just the record that's before you, so the testimony that was before you tonight and what's in the staff report, essentially.
Okay. Now, do we have any testimony, expert or otherwise, that says this dock reconstruction, board for board, whatever we want to call it, interferes with anybody's riparian rights?
I actually can have the city engineer testify to the riparian rights issue because that was the issue with the dock that was denied at the last meeting. So he has done an analysis of this one if he wants to opine.
I would love to hear that opine.
I threw together a quick little exhibit today to take some measurements to see what's going on out there. I have the PDF. I can email it to somebody.
Seeing if we can put it on the screen.
Who do I email it to?
Who would we email it to? Tamara? Email it to Tamara.
Yeah, let's take a 2-minute break while they get the. 3, 4.
What is Marcy doing in the kitchen?
Yeah, we gotta have Guile.
Why is Marcy in the kitchen? What are you doing?
All right. We will reconvene at this time. And staff, you want to take away? Ryan?
Okay, so as you can see on the screen now, I put together a quick little drawing to look at kind of where the overlaps are from both properties. You can see the existing property to the left side there encroaches, and this is from Lee County, or not Lee County, sorry, Okaloosa County Property Appraiser website. Jeez. Sorry. I'm sorry. Jeez. And so it's within about a foot or so, in terms of accuracy. So it's showing the existing property on the left encroaches about 18 and a half feet into the riparian rights. The dock that's under question tonight right now encroaches about 6 feet into the riparian rights, and then since it's built a half a foot bigger on each side, it's going to be about 6.5, 6.6, somewhere around there, feet encroachment into the riparian rights.
All right, thank you. All right, with that, Tori, you're up first, if you have.
Apologize. The one under discussion, 523, is the one on the right?
That's correct.
Okay, and it goes 6 feet into the riparian, and the one on the left, which would be 525, goes 18 feet? 521, okay. I'm just trying to get oriented here.
He has permission from the zoning property. I had to get Mr. Lord's consent.
Okay, that's okay. That's not what's in question.
You're not being.
You're good. That won't have any way on any. All right, please.
Mayor, if I may, I continue along that line of questioning.
Go ahead.
Staff, when did the 25-foot rule come into effect on riparian setback?
I don't know the date that came into effect, but the code reads, as we're all aware, that if it's within the 25-foot setback, we just have to notify the neighbor. It's not required to be 25 feet away from the property line. However, I cannot attest to when that came into play.
That would be our code, correct?
Yeah, that's our code.
Okay, well, the DEP 25-foot came in after the city of Destin incorporated. You can check on that, and I would encourage you to do so. So, and I can give this to either one of our attorneys, structures, give that to Kim, structures that were in existence prior to that 25-foot rule, grandfathered structures, would they be subject to that rule, generally?
They'd be legal non-conforming for our code.
Okay, and I think we received testimony tonight that at least this dock, and probably the ones on either side, were in existence before the city incorporated, which means there is not a real riparian issue here, because those are legally grandfathered, and so is this one. Now, that is not a legal opinion, because I'm not an attorney, but we should answer that question. So I'm still trying to search where the riparian rights are being interfered with, if in fact those are legal non-conforming structures.
Yeah.
Well, I need a legal opinion because normally I know if it were a board-by-board replacement, what Mr. Destin said, well, I don't know because I'm not an attorney either. If it were a board-by-board replacement, he would be exactly right. But if it is a wholesale replacement and is not in the existing footprint, then it would have to fall under the current codes and the existing FDEP setbacks. Is that correct?
For the city, yeah, it would be correct if it was totally removed and then put back.
And it was. It's got all new, my understanding, I may be wrong, it's got all new pilings. It's got all new everything. So it would have to conform.
Under the city's code, yes.
Okay. Y'all are just confusing the hell out of me.
Kyle?
I was just going to make a motion because we are going nowhere and taking a very long time to do it tonight. I'll move that we
I think
table.
I mean, we could direct
I was-
questions to the applicant. The applicant's here to answer all of them.
Yeah, and the applicant did want one more opportunity to kind of summarize things, so you're.
Yeah, if you want to come up here and we'll go through the discussion. Kyle, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm reading this email dated February, I believe it's February 20th, from Adrienne Childers, the FDB EDP, and it states right there, regards to repair/replace. And I think that's a little vague. I would really like clarification from FDEP, because is she insinuating board, because she doesn't say alter. There's nothing in here that says alter. And in my opinion, the intended use was altered. If that wasn't originally an observation deck, if you want to call it, now there's been an alteration made. So I just want to verify through FDEP that her intent was to include the alteration.
Are you citing the email that was February 2022?
February 20, 2023, 8:47 a.m.
2023?
2023.
Okay.
I can't tell who's talking to me.
That's,
Can you raise your hand?
that's
Oh,
me,
yes, sir.
Daniel.
Hi, Daniel, how are you?
Good. I don't know if this is not in your packet, the email, but so I can just briefly touch on this. So Adrienne Childers reached out to staff. Staff did not reach out first because she received a complaint from the neighbor. She reached out to staff trying to gather some more information, and Steve linked her all of the materials that had been submitted by the applicant and gave her a timeline of all the actions that had happened from October 2022 till today, or which was, this was February 2023 when this email took place. And so she replied back, I don't have her response, but there is a response from her to Steve saying, given the scope of work, they are not going to pursue any further action. That's actually what the email Noel was reading earlier.
Okay, so in your opinion, she understands there's an alteration happening to that deck based on that email that she generated?
Yes.
Okay.
Councilman King?
Yeah, just one thing real quick. Mr. Mully, you said that you asked for permission to encroach in the riparian zone? No. I'm just asking you that.
Please. Yeah, now that he asked you a direct question.
Hit the button.
Turn it on.
I had, the DEP regulation, yours calls for notice, DEP's calls for consent. So the doctor that lived next door to me, to make my boathouse a little bit longer, I needed Laura's consent. It cost me a lot of loads of white sand on her property to get that. But I had to have her consent.
The question that I'm asking is, you asked him for permission and he gave it to you.
I had to get
If
that
this
for
gentleman
DEP
were,
to
if it were
approve
pertinent and this gentleman asked you for permission, would you allow him the same courtesy?
I asked him before he started his construction, what is he going to build, a metal roof up there or a party deck? And he said, I can do whatever I want on my property. It's not his property.
Well, Mr. Mully, here's the problem.
It's over the water.
And this is running rampant in this town. I've been seeing it for 35 years. We have people come to this town and they want to be treated the way that we've all been treated.
I
Okay?
agree.
How are we being good neighbors and good citizens to these people by throwing such a fit over your view? No offense to you. I understand the situation that you're in, but I'm getting a little irritated because you asked for a consideration based on what you wanted and you got it. This gentleman isn't encroaching near what you are, and you want to throw a fit about it. What if we all people come to this town all the time and they want it to be the way it is where they came from. And this is Destin. This is our home.
I empathize with that completely. My boathouse is a little short, stubby thing because the neighbor before Laura Nord, John Boyce, the original, he would not approve it any higher than that. And that's what we had to live with. So I have this little short squatty, it might look big from the aerial view, but it's not. It's a little short squatty thing. And from most people's back pool decks, you can see right over the whole boathouse. The vision is not impaired. And I empathize with him completely. But they should have to go by the same rules that environmental impact fee. There was none. Hey, go build this thing. It's 80% complete. Nobody paid an environmental impact fee. I pay my annual lease, my 5-year renewal was just up this summer. Miss Adrienne Childress came out. She actually gave it to me in writing. I have it not with me yet tonight, where they call for 25 feet. That's the distance that DEP
Mr. Raleigh,
uses
I asked you
from
one-
the repair
I
end.
just asked the one question.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I couldn't hear you.
I just asked the one question, and you answered it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Councilman Bagby, bring her home.
Okay, thanks. Well, I think Mr. Destin's going to bring us home, I hope, and pray. But Daniel, I refer you to Steve's email to Adrian, and I believe it's February 9th of 2023, which is in the packet. So I finally got to read everybody's emails during the break. About halfway down, he says, "It is worth noting that in the application material also, you will find an email from Jennifer Waltrip of FDEP that states no new submerged land lease would be required as the dock had existed since before the state's requirement for submerged land leases." Which again, if they were doing a board-by-board replacement, I would 100% agree with that statement from Steve. But since they were doing an entirely new construction, I'm not sure I would agree with the way he characterizes with that. And I would think, but Adrian's not here tonight to testify, that may have colored her response a week or 11 days later that says, oh, because it sounds like from Steve's email, you're just doing a replacement and it's grandfathered in because it was there before that construction, that thing was there before there were submerged land leases, which that thing was not. Go ahead.
If you keep reading, on the fourth bullet, he says, "However, we determined that it was an expansion of the dock as they were turning a covered slip into a covered slip with a deck above. So we required the applicant to submit a Harbor and Waterways Board application so they could construct the deck. We did allow the applicant's contractor to continue to construct the slip cover as the slip had been covered since the original approval."
Yeah, that
And he
was in
goes-
the synopsis of actions, not in,
Okay.
and not in the base email, and I'm sure there was
It's-
a lot.
This was the whole email, so she got all the bullets, including the body of the email.
Yeah, I just think without her testimony, we don't know.
Yeah, I don't know Adrian personally, so
I
I
don't
can't
either.
attest that either.
I may. I don't know, I know a lot of those FDs.
So do you want to
Okay,
closing
Mr.
remarks?
Destin, just bring us home
He was asking.
There's been a lot of discussion, things going out with DEP, and I kind of want to bring it all back home, kind of why we're here today. We're at the city council level. It's a simple, objective criteria. Has the land development code been complied with? It has. You've heard from staff. They said yes, it has been approved with. They've recommended approval. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan. It enhances the quality of life. There's no anticipated effect on the budget. There's no anticipated effect on the level of service. All this other talk about DEP and what the state might or may not do, that's irrelevant for today's purposes. And actually, the email that was received, actually the DEP approves it. But regardless, for today's purposes, the city council needs to make a determination of whether or not the dock in the project as presented complies with the land development code. Does it comply with the comprehensive plan? And it does. The staff have just said so. The materials provided establish it. All the other arguments of having to provide approval or consent because of 25-foot riparian rights, that has nothing to do with this. I think it's kind of getting confusing because there's non-attorneys kind of saying, oh, well, this is required of this, or this is what I had to do. That might have been what another property owner had to do at that time. That's certainly possible. However, we're talking about this specific project here today. You have an email from the DEP saying it's not required. It's exempt for the consent from the adjoining property owner from the DEP level, but regardless, that's at the state level. That we're still here at the city level for the approval for the project for the permit. So I would request that the council approve the project as submitted. In the alternative, Councilman Bagby, I know you had a concern regarding the permit cost. In the alternative, I would ask that you approve the project subject to increase in the permit costs or adjustment in the permit costs.
Well, I was just curious. Code did not approve this. It is not approved. It went back for correction and approval through the board because the stairs and the deck were not part of the original plan. Am I right, Noel?
That is why, yes, I mean, that's why the original permit was placed on hold. However, before we even send anything to Harbor and Waterways Board, we do take corrective measures if there's anything that needs to be correcting. You know, if we will reach out to them and saying, hey, this isn't compliant with the land development code, you might want to change this. So, I mean, it is still reviewed by staff prior to going to Harbor and Waterways Board as well.
Seeing that I don't have a vote, who's going to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. I motion that we table this until we have a chance to talk to and get the minutes from the Harbor Board, and that we find out some information from the department over there on Gulf Shores. They have, or not Gulf Shores.
DEP and Mythical?
No, not DEP. The other, what's that little community? Holiday Isle, they have their own little permit office as well. So I want to see if there's inconsistencies in the way they filed that permit here versus there, because, well, I'm not trying to force their rules. I'm trying to determine intent. Because if there was deceptive intent and it was just a mistake on one side, that's fine. But if there was deceptive intent on both applications, then it shows consistency. So I would prefer to table this until we get clarification from the Harbor Board minutes by reading exactly why they had such a conflict, so that we can understand what we're doing.
Right. Is that to a time certain, next meeting, when you want to table it to?
I'm fine with next meeting if that gives staff or anyone else enough time to get those minutes to us so that we can review them.
The draft minutes, I'm trying to think of timing because I don't think that Harbor and Waterways Board has approved those minutes yet. So they would have to, I think that they will meet before the next council meeting. So it could probably be, assuming they approve those minutes, provided at the next council meeting. I'm not sure that that's particularly pertinent to the question tonight, which I agree is does this project, as you've received a testimony and the evidence here today, meet the LDC requirements?
So I'll make a substitute motion to table it until the second meeting of April. It does not meet the requirements of effect on budget, because the effect on budget would be the proper payment of all fees, which I do not believe the testimony tonight supports has been done. If the fees were based on $60,000 based on the initial board-by-board replacement, which meant no pilings or anything like that, I would say the testimony supports that that is not an accurate number, and the testimony that I heard from the applicant and from the applicant's contractor didn't support that either. And I think when they review the tape, they will see that.
All right, I have a motion on the table.
I'll second it.
The second, dare I say any further discussion? Seeing none, calling the vote. Right, the motion passes and the topic is tabled. Okay. All right, with that, no other public hearings. Kyle? All right, so with that, Councilman Guile, parking fees.
I got something that I want to talk about that I didn't have time to put on this agenda.
Yeah. Keep it down, please.
It's going to be a couple things that I need to talk about. One, I'm finding out that we have a little bit of burden on some of our staff. Right now, we have a system in place called CivRec where people can reserve those ball fields. And there's being miscommunications to our Parks and Development crew because there's multiple people trying to direct them on how to do the reservation for them, and it's causing a burden on our Parks and Recs crew. I'm asking that we, or make a motion now that Parks and Rec crew advise the Destin High School on how to utilize the Civic Rec Center online service that they've already been trained on, but retrain them and redirect the high school to use that program in order to reserve those fees.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
All right, I have a motion on the table.
I'll second it for discussion. Is this a problem? I mean,
I'm sorry, this is a little
Lisa,
bit.
is Lisa still on?
Yeah. Lisa, you there?
I am, yes. So it is a new process that we have had for about a year, and it is the way we are supposed to be reserving and paying for the fields. We've been helping, we help everybody out, of course, but show them how to use our system. And as the, when Councilman was asking us if everything was paid up and everything, we do have some outstanding ones, and the only way that is outstanding is because we are doing the reservations for them, but we're also helping them because they're going through a new financial program. So, but it is the way we do need our fields to be reserved and paid for.
Okay, I guess my question is this I know we had a problem with the school before not paying in a timely manner for the use of the fields. Is this just an extenuation of that issue, or is this another entirely different issue?
It's the same. We were in the same process at the beginning of the school using our fields, and they were trying to figure it out. We were trying to help them. We have shown them. I know they don't. I think they're trying to do good. I know they're trying to do good. We're working with them. We want to work them to make this happen. But when, if you were to come to me and say, are there any outstanding bills? I would have to tell you the truth that there are. And that is the reason, because we just don't have, they're not booking it themselves. My staff is booking them because, like, I think when we all had a conversation, someone said, oh, there's nothing on the books. Well, the only way you can put them on the books is if you reserve it. We all know that. So we are reserving it to keep us, in order, and it shows them their balance. So they are getting their invoices, and we are reserving their fields. But we do need to, and we've been talking, but we do need to have them work with us, and Councilman is correct. Maybe I need to work a little harder with them, and they need to work a little harder with me, but they did say they were having a new financial program, and that was kind of stopping them up in sending payments and getting their
Let me just ask a quick question. We're not back up to where they owe us $30,000 again for the use of the field like we were before, that put everybody's hair on fire, or are we?
No. I think, Councilman, did you get the updated one? I don't want to speak because I wasn't there this last time you got it, but
Yes, ma'am, and I apologize. I hope your husband's okay. Let me ask that first. This is the first time I've had a chance to
No,
talk to you. I
you're
hope
fine.
everything's okay. Is it?
we're working through
Wonderful.
it here. So that's
Okay.
where I'm in. I'm up here in the hospital, guys, so sorry.
Yeah, so their current
Okay.
bill is now, as of last Thursday, $15,677. So the money is accruing, and if they book it through the Civic Rec online service that everyone else has to utilize, they'll pay that bill as they go.
That is correct.
Or they can put it towards reserve, absolutely. But what's happening now is there's multiple people trying to make communications to reserve fields. And on the high school side, there's a lack of communication. So it's causing scheduling issues, several other issues, and it's creating an unpaid balance. Is
Yes.
that accurate, Ms. Firth?
Yes, you are accurate. Yes, sir.
Right, so we do have a motion on the table at this point, so if we want to call the vote to,
Advise the Destin High School on how to utilize the rec track system and redirect the high school to that system.
okay, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved. Sure, yeah, I could have assumed that. All right, continue, sir.
Okay, the next thing I would like to talk about, thank you for that, by the way. But the next thing I'd like to talk about, I'd like to give, I know we typically have 3 minutes for public comment. I would like to give John Stevens 3 minutes now during my session to kind of talk about some of the issues that we're running into with these parking fee and the parking fee increase and some of the things we're running into on that end of the structure. Do I have your permission to allow him?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Only because it's John.
All right, evening, council. So this is in regards to the $20 fee that you guys approved for parking. I understand locals can apply for these parking passes. So on the harbor, there's definitely more workforce that's coming from out of the city. So now you're charging these, well, I guess if the businesses don't have the parking on their property, then they're telling their customers or their employees to park over there. They can accrue up to $5,000 a year in fees. So what's going to happen is these workers, they're going to go work somewhere else. And then, so the businesses aren't going to have enough staff. One thing you guys might want to consider is kind of doing something similar to what you're doing with citizens, but maybe offer it to the businesses to where they can buy these parking passes for their staff. It's just an idea, so.
That's what I was thinking. Thank you for
Well,
that.
while you're here, John, I was talking to Webb and Lance and had sort of like the same mindset because I knew that Tori was on the same sheet of music as me, that $20 is a lot for a lot of our employees, even though when they build restaurants and all this, and I talked to Lewis about this, they're supposed to have parking for their employees and their customers, which we know that's not the case. So the employees are the ones that have to bite it. And of course, the employers are not necessarily going to be able to pay for everyone's parking. But I agree that it is an issue, and I think that probably doing exactly that, doing like a 30-day pass, because if an employee quits and they've got a sticker on their car, they got 6 months or a year until it expires. But if we give employers like a 30-day for 10 employees, you know, that they can put in their windshield, it's laminated, and when the employee leaves, they have to turn that back in. Would that, something like that? And I know we can't do like a cost, because then that worked to where if it's in their windshield in the parking lot, then we
Can't
can
you
help
just
them.
reserve spots? Just
the lots?
have that employer or that business owner buy spots at that lot and designate those spots? And then they just rent it the entire spot. And that eliminates the pass, that eliminates anybody being fired. And if it's not an employee in that spot, they're towed.
That might be a little bit easier than trying to give out a certain amount of passes to the business. But can we look at this over the next couple of weeks? Because we're not doing this, it's not imposed until mid-May anyway, correct?
That is correct. And one thing I think staff will always suggest is trying to keep this simple as possible. The original parking program was quite complicated, and it consumed a lot of staff's time. The existing parking program as is has actually been pretty streamlined from an administration standpoint. So with that said, I think giving us a little bit of time to think this through and try to bring back some options would behoove us.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes, and I understand, and I want everybody here to understand as well, that it is the employer's or the business owner's responsibility to provide those parking spots. They're making the conscious effort to not provide them to their employees and give them to their customers. So I don't think we should do anything that's free, because the owner of that business is making the effort to try to make a dollar off that spot versus allowing his employees to benefit from that position. We also have an issue that needs to be addressed with, and I think we're going to take care of that in the future ordinance, but outdoor dining. When you have outdoor dining, you don't have to utilize that number of seats for parking. So then that's causing confusion down in this range as well. And the intent of that $20 increase was, in my opinion, to capture more so that we can expand these parking lots and make parking garages and improve parking overall. So I think that the intent of the process was accurate. I think it was exactly what we needed to do, but there's underlying features here that I didn't take into account. I made a mistake. John reached out to me, and I wanted to give him the opportunity to speak this out here. So I do think we need a solution. So if I were going to, what I would like is the permission from this council to direct staff to come up with a solution for next council meeting on options on how we can address this.
You don't need a motion, do you, Webb?
We need a motion.
I don't know who's
Not
speaking.
this time, no.
Public comments.
Public comments, ma'am.
It's a suggestion to follow up for you to direct staff. It's something that they do now.
Regardless, we're going to talk about it here in a minute anyway, so no, keep going.
Okay, I apologize. But,
They're going to look at it.
okay. Well, then that's, I just need to know, do I need to
Yeah,
make a
put
motion?
it in a motion.
Okay, then I would like to propose a motion that staff give us options for next council meeting on parking options for employees in the harbor.
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion? Seeing, oh, yes.
One
Yep.
quick discussion.
Oh, yeah.
The greedy business owners on the harbor are
I
not the
didn't-
parking problem?
I didn't say greedy.
No. The ones that are trying to make money, the problem is our multimodal parking regulations. Our restaurant has a maximum of 32 spaces. If we try to provide more than that under the code, we would not have gotten our building permit. So that is the problem. We cut the parking in an effort to push people into parking garages that have still not been built. We cut the parking required of a business dramatically, and therein lies our problem. We're not requiring it, and we should. They need more parking.
At the vision session, did your red dot be the parking garage? All right. Jim?
Okay, we're voting?
Yeah,
Jim's got one
no, I
thing.
got one thing. And this is what I get a little nervous about. When we direct staff to bring us something back at the next meeting where we don't get the chance to get Marcy's input or Public Works, Public Safety input, or anybody else's input, we just make the dadgum council is going to drive this train, and we're going to drive it straight off a cliff, which is what we did when we tried to encourage people to walk, ride bicycles, or use the non-existent public transportation that was also going to be the reason that we didn't need all those parking spots. So I will support if we direct staff to take something to Public Works, Public Safety, and let's do this the proper way and get their ideas, because I have a lot of ideas where the one thing I don't want to do, I'll just tell you, is, and it's not the greedy business owners on the harbor, it's I don't want to reinforce bad behavior. So I don't want to say, oh, well, we'll give you 40 parking stickers so you can fill up our parking lots at a discounted price so that you can park Sea-Doos or boats or, mom and pop
in your parking spaces. So that's why I like us to fully have the staff review it, have the lawyers review it, have the committees review it, and then it comes back to us for consideration.
Right, so I have,
That is acceptable to the maker of the motion.
yep, yeah, both were
It's
agreed.
acceptable.
All right. Any further discussions on it? Seeing none, calling the vote. Updated motion. Ayes have it, so moved. You're on a roll.
I'm good. Thank you
All right.
so much for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your ideas.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I hope everybody was able to review the Baskerville and Donovan proposal to do our Stallman / transportation corridor study. It has a lot of good stuff in it. It has a couple of things that puzzle me, but we can go forward, and I think that we should go forward. And I would like to volunteer to be the council liaison to the staff in Baskerville and Donovan and help facilitate this study.
I second.
All right. All right. All right, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Mike?
Darn thing. Okay, I'd like to nominate Denise Owens to our short-term rental committee.
Second.
Seeing none, calling the vote. All right, ayes have it, so moved. Congratulations.
And I would like to request
Mike?
We need these automatic things.
I asked him about that.
New technology.
We need new technology if we're doing that.
Yep.
We need a new IT director to do that.
I would like a report from the staff on our linear park that we are going to have designed by October, or we lose our legislative fund. Where are we? Do we have a company that's doing that? What is our date for completion?
An RFQ right now is out. It'll be back on the 30th. At that time, those will go to bid committee, and then the bid committee will bring back a recommendation to council to select a firm to do that work. And then I understand from FDOT that an extension is, well, can be warranted and extended if need be. So they've already confirmed that if we have a reason we need to extend that, they'll work with us.
Okay, and are we segregating this linear park from the road that we talked about earlier? If we mix the two together, we're going to have a problem, I would think.
The RFQ is such that both can be designed. They can be designed separately at the same time, but by the same firm.
They can be, they are they the same company?
Well, they can be, and the proposals will be for both. So I would expect that to be the case, and FDOT has indicated that that's not a problem for them as long as they build separately.
So we'll just get the qualifications of the companies back, and then we can frame the contract during the negotiation phase however we want it. So we could even do it as two contracts, we could do it as one, split into different sections. We've still got control in that. All y'all are going to consider is the qualifications of the firms when you get that.
Okay, well, it gives me great trepidation to mix these two together. I've gotten some feedback from some of our CRA members who also had a great deal of angst. And, I don't know how I can say it any stronger than if we lose this money, that would be a very bad thing for some of the folks that work here. And I would every day be coming to work figuring out how we're not going to lose that money. And,
The council could, even during the negotiation process, if you so direct, just go forward with the park elements. I mean, I think that's still fully within the city's control and the council's control.
Well,
Because all we're getting is qualifications of who looks like they might be good at
right.
doing that.
We need to expedite it because we've got till October, and I know the way things work. That's a very short time period. And that's all for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Bagby.
I'd just like to congratulate Wynn and the rest of the library staff on their 20th anniversary and the fabulous soiree that they had. It was wonderful. I was glad to be able to be there, and I would echo Mr. Destin, the sense of urgency. And I know we throw a lot of things, we want you to look at this, or we want you to look at that. None of this is really life or death. Well, some of it is that we do up here. But this project that he's discussing, that he's the lead on, is. And he will be a lot nicer than I will be if we lose this money, because y'all know how I am about that money. Thank you.
All right, Councilwoman Hebert.
I just wanted to speak to the, Jennifer from the TDC was going to come tonight to present a few items and give us some updates on the Little Adventures. And she had a very large presentation she was working on, so she will be at our next meeting. And at that meeting, she will address the 2 local vendors that she is going to have help during the summer for the popsicle sales, or giveaways, basically, for Little Adventures. So hopefully that'll help some of our local business folks here, that we're going to do it locally, and they're going to benefit as well as be part of this program. So.
All right, thank you so much. Councilman King.
Nothing tonight, thank you.
All right, and we'll be out of here by 9. All right, we'll make it quick. All right, so why would I bring up something that's probably very 50-50 controversial with red light cameras? Because it's what I do. I think it's because, if we really are committed to a family-oriented community, I think safety, walkability, and focus on the data is going to be imperative that we do so accordingly. Working and talking to some of our neighbors from Crestview of how they structure the finances and work the system, to the data that shows through Gulf Breeze, which is a complete comparison of a city that has 98 running through it on a 3-lane street with turn lanes. I'm not asking for red light cameras everywhere, but I would love to get a motion for council from council to direct city manager to look at our 3-lane 98 highway and to use the data provided as well as other information you guys can find to see if there is an intersection that merits a test run of this. Some of Gulf Breeze's data over the years shows just time year-over-year decline when the rest of the state and surrounding counties have an increase. So clearly it is coming from an effectiveness. We hear from, not the city anymore because we're almost fully staffed, but we know that our partners at the Sheriff's Department, as well as many other people, have problem filling their seats. And what's other better way than to use technology in an automated system to solve a safety issue? And then my only other comment after talking to people online and getting their concerns is, this is just another way for us to get another stream of income. Us greedy councilmen up here trying to find a stream. The state statute says that you must charge $158. $100 goes to the state for general, $10 goes to the medical at the state level, $3 for brain and spine injury trust fund at the state level, providing $45 to the city. And at that point, depending on how we structure it, I don't think $45 per ticket is really going to get us anything. So just wanted to be transparent that this is not a way for my idea of creating another stream of revenue at the city, but to take a need that we have, which is we need more law enforcement, but to do it in an automated way, I think just kind of allows us to work with everyone. So just wanted to open up the floor at the council level to see what your guys' thoughts are on that position. And Councilman Guile.
I think this is a great idea for more reasons than one. I had a friend that owns that part owner of the Ace Hardware in Miramar Beach. Somebody broke in, stole several $1,000s worth of equipment, a trailer, and left. And during the visiting session, we asked the Okaloosa County Sheriff if they had access. They said DOT wasn't being very compliant in helping locate this. So I think that this serves multiple purposes, and one of those are protecting our citizens during theft, obvious theft.
One other thing that is out there that, we would play a gotcha game with the yellow light spacing. With the cameras, it's a state mandate that it's 4 seconds or longer. I think Gulf Breeze actually does 4.5, which is a little extreme, but, we can play on the side of safety. This is not about gotcha or income. This is about protecting and serving in an automated style. Councilwoman?
Yeah, Mayor, I think it is a good idea, and I'm sure the sheriff could probably tell us right off the bat, maybe the intersection where Airport comes down to 98 is probably a good area, because that's where the 3-lane starts, or even over by the Walmart at Henderson. I know that I have been at the red light and somebody in the lane next to me running it. So I know there's a couple that are extremely primed to be in the area we could put up a red light camera, and it would affect probably some of the crazy drivers that we do have. Can you lean into any of this just before we start putting a motion on the table?
As far as what lights that would be effective at, probably the most effective one in the city would be Gulf Shore in 98.
Danny Werfel Way coming in. Yeah, and then it
but-
didn't translate well on here, so that's sorry for the 300 pages of nonsense. It's actually on the Excel spreadsheet, and I'll get Ray to send you guys that. I did a public records request.
The sheriff's still talking.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to say, I did a public
What-
records request, and I have the data from the past 3 years of every intersection that goes on Highway 98 as far as ticketing and crashes are concerned, as far as data. So I don't know if you know that, but I did a public records request, and it just didn't translate well on our agenda packet here. Sorry, continue.
As far as what Councilman Giles was talking about with the red light cameras and access from DOT, that's still an uphill climb. I spoke to our real-time crime center folks when I first found out that y'all were going to bring this up, and they said a lot of DOT contracts are specifying that nobody be able to access the cameras other than the city, so they're blocking law enforcement out of it. How they're doing it over in Walton County on that one, I'm not sure. But that's not to say that we couldn't get it. That's just to say that it's not as simple. Just because we put cameras up there means that DOT is going to allow complete access to them.
Thank you. Okay. Yep, so my ask is just that we direct city manager to really give us a packet here. It can be a couple months from now, it doesn't have to be next meeting by any means. But I do think with hiring and other factors out there that we should at least give this an honest look at what it looks like and the temperament of the full city, as I'm sure this will get more in the public eye and discussion. If not, I need a motion if we guys do a few
I'll
of
make
that
a
one.
motion to direct staff that by the first meeting in July, bring us back something that gives us an idea of where we could put one of these up as a test to look at what areas of the Destin area would be the right place to put up a pilot.
I'll second.
All right, got a motion, a second. Do you have a discussion on that?
I do. I guess I'm somewhat old-fashioned. These traffic light cameras offend my sense of justice and due process. There are thousands and thousands of vehicles being driven up and down this road, 10 of which belong to my corporations that I'm not driving. But guess who the ticket goes to? And that's why when people don't pay this, it's not like going before a judge, as best I can tell, and I looked at it many, many years ago. They turn it over to a collection agency. What do they do when people don't pay them? Because it's not, if you don't stop the car and find out who the driver is, you really can't do criminal sanctions. So the whole thing, in my opinion, is just a really bad idea. The other thing we'll find is it's going to catch a whole lot of people that live here, and they're going to be very unhappy with us. On top of the fact, as I say, what happens to due process, what happens to accountability. Will we be the first municipality in the county to do this?
Crestview does right now, and they've done it for a few years, and they've actually went from an internal agency to I believe an external one, or maybe vice versa. They've gone through the process and done a 2.0, and I think
They have, as for the argument that it's not a revenue source, if it gets 10 people a day over 360 days, that is.
Yeah. Well, and with that, if
several $100,000, so it is in fact a revenue source. And our real problem in this town is not people going through red lights, it's speeders. And this will do nothing to people who are speeding, who are the real danger. Anyway, as you may be able to tell, I would not vote for this.
Thank you.
Can you write an algorithm that says if there's a city sticker on the back, they don't get a ticket?
What's going to happen is they're going to spread the word that there's, hey, don't, be careful around Gulf Shore Drive. So it's just going to catch tourists.
Well, I'm looking at it more of like when that theft happens, maybe we have a means of tracking that down because those people lost thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. Oh, it can't track that?
No, they won't allow you can't use those people to see anything.
Oh, then why the hell do it?
All right. Jim?
I don't want to leave you with the impression that you can't do it. It's just been an uphill challenge because there are places that are doing it, but for some reason DOT's dug their heels in with the requests that we've made, And so it's an uphill challenge. I don't know that we'll be able to accomplish it or not. And I will say that I agree with, on the due process, I agree with Mr. Destin.
Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, this is the third time I've gotten the privilege and honor to vote on this topic, and I will vote against it like I did the other 2 times. Some of the reasons the same as Mr. Destin. You know, I understand, and I was driving through Gulf Breeze every day for 3 months, and now I drive through Crestview every single day. And it's kind of like the speed studies, you know, the people speeding down Indian Trail are us. That's who we're going to catch, and that's who's going to pay. And it's just the code enforcement. You think you have complaints with code enforcement, you're going to have the same thing, because the collection agency isn't even going to be near as nice as the code enforcement officer standing out there. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. If you do it and you only do it at one place, if this passes, I would ask you run it through the Public Works, get their input on which intersection we should do it through. So if it's coming back to us in July, it goes to them in June or whatever with the staff. But I won't vote for it either.
All right, Councilman King?
Yeah, thank you, sir. You know, I've championed the majority of the things that you've suggested and led the charge on. I've got to agree with these guys. I'm a big fan of due process. I don't like that Google listens to me right now. You know what I mean? So I think that it kind of falls in the same line, and I'm not a big fan of that. You know, I'm a little bit old school myself, so I won't support this either. But I do like the idea of putting some plans in place to create more safety on our back roads. Like Mr. Bagby was saying, that's where we live and die, you know? So I would like to explore ways to make our back roads safer.
And that'll come through the mobility plan that we're going to be seeing here in a few months. Councilman Guile?
I apologize. I didn't understand that one particular, for some reason, I thought this was something we were going to install, manage, regulate, and be able to monitor. I didn't realize we had to go through DOT for it. So, yeah, well, if we can't utilize it for.
Oh, no, I'd rather just turn me down
protecting our-
officially.
Yeah, we can't, for protecting our citizens,
Yeah.
then I'm not going to hurt them.
All right. So before I call the vote, got one button here. I got one button. You know, obviously I'm not getting it. So, and I knew coming into this, I just wanted to provide the information. And you know, my job up here is not to vote, but to bring decent projects that I feel could benefit the community. And obviously, you guys are the legislating body, so I'll respect that. And my only rebuttal is, you know, I heard all last discussion. We're not going to encourage bad behavior. So, with that, call the vote.
Don't change.
If you're trying to lobby and play politics, there you go. All right.
I made the motion.
Fails.
I gave you a yes.
All right. So with the other things, I appreciate you going through that with me. The annexation fact finder, I know that's a priority for a few of you up here on the council, and it's one of the things I'm really passionate about, making sure that this whole city becomes a city and that we're all on the same boat, sailing the same way, and that the momentum of the ad valorem tax to the body and the want to be a part of this government is heard. So I really want to ask you guys to be the fact finder for the annexation. I've talked to several council or staff members about this, and I really want to almost take a grassroots movement through getting their presentation. I'll bring it back here, and then once you guys approve what we would discuss, I would love to take it to the HOA meetings of all the different unincorporated communities, going through the phases that we've laid out, being Commons Drive, and then once we grab that, Kelly, then Regatta, in that order. So with that, I just wanted to ask your guys' permission to be the fact finder.
Yes.
Councilman Gao.
Do we actually need their permission? I mean, if the city owns the property all the way around them, can't we just annex them?
Yeah, Kim, do you want to, yes. I've heard it a lot, but I'll let the lawyer say it.
There's different options for annexation under the statute, and Yeah, when there are enclaves, there's a different process than when it's involuntary, and we were going to sit with the mayor later this week and look at the maps and see what he's thinking as far as the annexations that we were going to bring to council and put the options for you with respect to the specific properties because it's fact-specific. So, we were going to...
I have a question. I had somebody that did some work at my house and was, asking about the city and, parking passes. And I said, well, you live in the city? And he goes, no, I live in, we're not incorporated. And I was like, where do you live, Kelly, Regatta? He said, no, Diamond Lakes, right off of Commons. And I said, well, would you be willing to talk to your HOA if we were to annex, y'all in? He goes, the only thing that would be at the end of their road. They wouldn't want any of those townhomes to be built on that big piece of property at the end. And I said, that would be something that would definitely have to be discussed at the city level, but I'm sure if that was like something you said, we want this to be annexed, I'm sure there could be things worked out. I mean, is there things that can be said or done with these areas of town, or is that all part of the fact finding?
I'm not sure if I understand what you're asking. Is it already an approved development or a not approved development?
It's not, there's nothing going on in there. They love their little neighborhood, and they wouldn't want to be part of the city because if the city decided that they would allow more homes to be built in there, specifically townhomes or condos.
Understood. So yeah, when it comes into the city, we would decide the future land use and zoning for the property, which means what could go there. Yes. That's one of the reasons to annex, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so we don't get another true hotel and another storage unit under county land. Councilman Bagby?
Yeah, on that, a couple of points. On that example, wouldn't it be grandfathered in with whatever the developer's rights were from the county when it
Well, that's
were
why I
annexed
said,
in?
is it approved development or just a not approved? So if there is an approved development from the county, they'd retain their rights. If it's just, there's no approvals yet, then what happens is the county land use and zoning stays in place until the city annexes it and takes action to change it to ours. So once it was in the city, then we could change our map for zoning and future land use to put it where we want it, how we want it.
Yeah,
That's if there's no development rights. But to your point, if they already exist, they're staying.
right. So I'm a little unsure what fact-finding we're going to do. I thought we had a plan. I thought we had something coming before us where we were going to approve the annexation policy, and then that we were going to do the low-hanging fruit, the enclaves, and so I think what I would call phase 1 and 2, putting the legislation in place, using the legislation on the low-hanging fruit, we've already been done, so I wouldn't want to get in the staff's way unless they said, oh, no, it's okay. What I think you're talking about is the Kellys and Regattas and all that and going and pitching to the HOAs. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't want to impact what I thought was the plan for basically the next year. Am I missing something here, Webb or Kim, or?
I think the main thing of why I got direction from staff to come ask you guys for not legislator but fact finder was if we're enclaving, and please correct me if I miss out here, that it would go at a county level vote if we were enclaving. There might be a population discrepancy, but regardless, I could go in front of each county commissioner and explain this one-on-one, and that way we would sure up the vote if we were to go that route. So I'm just very...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but I never heard enclave as a verb before.
Yeah, we're enclaving.
So we're enclaving. So that to me is, we are section 171.046ing, but also...
Nice.
So when there's 110 acres or less and the criteria of that are met for enclaves, we can enter into an agreement with the county and forego the regular process.
And then in that process, I would like to sit down with them through the process that the staff creates to make sure that we have that vote at the county level. I need to get a motion. I can't do that.
Motion to approve Bobby's annexation
Second.
fact find.
All right, thank you. Calling the vote. All right, thank you, guys. Vote passes. Hey, listen, you know what? You win some, you lose some.
Great attitude, Bob.
And then this is just an update. We actually are getting into an amazing three-way conversation that could potentially with us having the final vote of this pickleball over at the aquatic center. So just wanted to let you guys know that next council meeting, they're going to be here with a packet for us with the professionals, kind of giving us that little overview of that site map. But with that, I just wanted to let everyone know that the Mattie Kelly Art Foundation is in, and they're willing to put skin in the game. The aquatic center's in, and they're willing to do the daily maintenance. And then us and our budgeted of the $400,000 that's been earmarked for a couple years can help to do it. And I talked to the county, and you know, if we needed to phase it out or whatever we need to do just to get these courts in there, I think these three people are willing to play ball. So I'm just excited to eventually bring this up. I've never played a day of pickleball in my life, but I've been lobbying I've been lobbying this for over a year now. So I'm really excited to finally present the plan to council to get your guys' suggestions and input, and hopefully a positive vote out of that. So that's just an update for next week. And with that, land use attorney.
I have nothing, thank you.
Two quick things. First is just Resolution 2305. This is related to the cemetery ordinance. The only reason it's under my name is it made sense to pass the ordinance first and then consider the resolution. Because all this does is increase fees a little bit to citizens that we're purchasing mausoleum niches or burial plots. And the reason for that would be because there's going to be an annual maintenance fee. I think staff estimated approximately $6,000 annually. So you might want to increase the fees at least slightly to recapture some of that annual cost. So this is what staff is proposing. Y'all can change the number however you like. Right now it's at $1,350, which is for everything, which is a slight increase over your standard plot you'd get now.
Got a motion?
Second.
Got a second? Seeing no discussions, calling the vote. Ayes have it, so moved.
Then lastly, Councilmember Sweetser has been experiencing some medical issues over the course of the last 3 meetings. Under our city charter, if Councilmember Sweetser were to miss 3 absences, have 3 consecutive absences from regularly scheduled council meetings that were not excused by council, then he would he would forfeit his office, thereby creating a vacancy which would need to be filled then. However, the council can excuse 1, 2, or 3 of those absences. Councilmember Sweetser just respectfully requested you extend him that professional courtesy and excuse his absence. He does believe he could hopefully be back by the next meeting, or if not the next meeting, certainly the one after that.
I'll move to excuse Councilman Sweetser.
Second.
For the,
All three?
yeah, for the time that he's
He's been sick.
been under duress.
Yeah.
First and second discussion, Councilman Guile. Canceling
just go and
discussion,
cancel the
seeing
discussion.
none. Calling the vote. Oh, look at that. Mom wrote an excuse.
Dog didn't need it.
All right, thank you. And then public comments.
Marcy, come talk to us.
You know what, discretion of the mayor, you know, don't hurt me on this one. They'll be giving me more no votes here.
So I'll start out by saying red light cameras got me a $150 ticket in Washington, D.C. They didn't take a picture of the driver, so I said to my husband, "It's your ticket," and he said, "No, it's your ticket." There were 4 of us in the intersection. All 4 of us got $150 tickets, but they don't do your face, just information. Number 2, I forgot to tell you who I am, Marcy Bell, 3 Gulf Breeze Court. Let's see. I will jump to the conversation, the long conversation about the dock. Just want to mention, I am on the ARB at Holiday Isle, and they came before us as well. As I recall, I do not have notes in front of me, the only application that was made with us was for board. There was nothing else brought to us to the best of my knowledge. I can look into that and confirm tomorrow if you'd like. I also wanted to point out that in October of 2004, they lost their roof due to Hurricane, Ivan. Yes, Ivan. The satellite images support that the roof and most of its support structure has been gone since that time, and there was a 6-month window for repairs of the damage that has never been met. And I believe, I can't quote that because I don't know, I just remember it in our conversations. I don't know if it was a DEP rule, I don't know if it was a city rule, it's somebody's rule. I just know that we mentioned it. So I would just say that it's my opinion that the roof should not be allowed back in place until the entire dock be brought into compliance, as it is currently non-compliant. It's too close to the upland property, not meeting the rule that it be placed 25 feet from the water line. Just information. Mostly my opinion and what I recall from a meeting that I attended. Let's see. Okay, so in reference to this parking thing, I had a great idea. Well, it wasn't my idea. It's what I lived through. So when I lived up in Aspen, one of the things that we did is we had parking issues. If I lived down Valley and I had to drive to park my car, it was expensive to do it 5 days a week. Or if I rode public transit, it was expensive. But what caught my ear about this whole thing was ski passes. So if you have a daily ski pass in Aspen, Colorado, or any of those 4 mountains at that particular moment in time, they were expensive, $150 a day. And if somebody wanted to ski on their lunch hour, they could go ski. But at $150 a day, it didn't make it feasible for anybody who was worker. So the ski company offered a discounted ski pass for the employees. But the employee applied for it. It didn't come through the employer. The employee had to prove to the city of Aspen, or I'm sorry, the ski company, that we were employees of a local Aspen company or Snowmass Village. And with that, we received an extremely discounted ski pass. You could get a 2-day, a 3-day, I think there was even maybe a 5 or 7 day, but it was discounted. And we paid it directly to the ski company. We had to have our employer, I'm looking at you because you're the employer, they would have to sign off on it and say this was our employer. I think we had to provide pay stubs. The only onus on the employer was that once that employee left their employment in that time period that they received the season pass, the employer had to notify the Aspen Ski Company that they were no longer an employee. I think that's how it went. It's been a long time. But if not, they just used it through the season. It wasn't for year-round. So I don't know if that's something that you guys would want to take into consideration for employees, whoever I'm supposed to be talking to. But anyways, that was my idea. I just wanted to get it out there. I thought it might be easier to talk when y'all were talking about it.
Thank you for the solutions.
So, well, I always get accused of not bringing solutions, and I think I'm pretty good about it.
Let
Anyways,
the record show.
Let the record show.
All right, anyone else?
Come on.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. Jim Wood, 3790 Misty Way. First of all, thank you, Mr. Bagby, for bringing the parking issue to the Public Works and Public Safety Committee. We like having some meat on our bones, so we appreciate all the things that we can cover. I guess, did the red light camera, did it die tonight? Good.
Yeah, it did.
So I had some other things to say about that. I'll refrain. So
I'm not perfect.
there are always folks that have good ideas. Love you, Mayor. Okay, but
you should hear all the ideas I don't bring up.
We've been through this before, and the local citizens are not going to want it. Sorry. And there's some good points to it, but so my other question I had was I saw a memo in the packet on fee waivers for Marlar parking lot. Did that come up earlier in the meeting that I missed?
It did, and they're getting it because you're also getting it with your vendors.
Roger that. That was my point exactly. So. Love you too, sir. Thank you very much. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else from the public? All this way, just to listen. All right, I appreciate that. All right, with that, I adjourn this meeting.